Chapter 29-23. The Sage Realm Master has arrived. The Sage Realm Master has personally arrived. Even this hazy figure, a dignified master of laws, was utterly stunned at this moment. Previously, it was the will of the heavenly Tao that had descended. Still now a dignified Sage Realm Master, the strongest existence in the absolute beginning divine realm, had personally arrived. That's not right. No matter what, this place is outside the third heaven. In the endless territories, the power of the will of the heavenly Tao isn't too oppressive here. Although a Sage Realm Master is formidable, he is far away in the third heaven, and is still at the core. He can't rush here so easily. Even if he has the power of the will of the heavenly Tao to help him, he wouldn't be able to do so. Then he must be a consciousness clone. The shadowy figure thought to herself. She was right. The white-robed bald man was indeed a consciousness clone, but it was much stronger than the one she had condensed as a rule master. After the white-robed bald man walked out of the tunnel, he looked down with a gentle gaze. "I'm late. Did he escape again?" The white-robed bald man had already received the message from the power of the will of heaven. He knew that Jian Wuxia had been rescued. Although he was a little angry, he was still smiling on the surface, giving off the feeling of a spring breeze. At the same time, the white-robed bald man also noticed the hazy figure, and his eyes had already penetrated through it. The blurry figure's heart skipped a beat, but he immediately bowed and greeted. "Grand Supreme Emotion Valley's Zhu Xeng greets you, sir." "Why would someone from Grand Supreme Emotion Valley appear here?" the white-robed bald man asked. "It's like this. A disciple of my Grand Supreme Emotion Valley has met with some trouble here, and I've come specially to pick her up," the blurry figure said. "The disciple you're talking about is that woman?" The white-robed bald man had already turned to look at Lung Rushuang. "Yes." The blurry figure did not dare to lie. "This woman is not ordinary. If I'm not wrong, the little fellow who escaped earlier, who the heavenly Tao does not tolerate, must be related to her." The white-robed bald man's eyes flickered with a strange light. The blurry figure was startled. Although she could sense that the white-robed bald man's tone was somewhat unfriendly, he immediately said, "Sir, this girl is a disciple of my Supreme Emotion Forgetting Valley, and is especially important to my Supreme Emotion Forgetting Valley. But most importantly, my Supreme Emotion Forgetting Valley's master thinks highly of her, and has even intended to accept her as a disciple." "Old Valley Master? That old woman?" The white-robed bald man did not show any signs of anger on the surface, but his heart sank. The Supreme Emotion Valley was indeed a large force in the absolute beginning divine realm. It could even be compared to the 8 Directions heavenly sect. If that were all, he would not take it to heart. However, the Supreme Emotion Valley's master had to make him pay attention to her. "Forget it. Since he is the successor of that old woman, I will naturally not make things difficult for him." The white-robed bald man waved his hand. "Thank you, my lord." The hazy figure secretly heaved a sigh of relief. At this moment, the white-robed bald man had already turned around, and a terrifying aura was spreading out from his body. The power of the will of the heavenly Tao above the void had yet to dissipate. At this moment, the white-robed bald man seemed to have wholly combined with the power of the will of the heavenly Tao. With the help of the power of the will of the heavenly Tao, the white-robed bald man began to set up some unique arrays. What is he planning? The hazy figure was shocked when he saw this, but he soon understood. He is setting up a spatial tunnel, and with the help of the will of the heavenly Tao, could it be that he is planning to open up a spatial tunnel leading to the third heaven, allowing his true body to descend from the core of the third heaven personally? The hazy figure was amazed at it. In the Dragon Phoenix Pavilion, many experts were also looking at the scene at the top of the void in shock, but no one dared to stop him. This was a boundless void that was a certain distance away from the Dragon Phoenix Pavilion, the Dragon Phoenix Sacred City, and even the Golden Crow 9 realms. This void has initially been empty, but suddenly, a figure appeared without any warning. This figure was naturally Jian Wuxia. He had once obtained a unique jade slip in the secret realm, left behind by the rule master of the Pil Sun Sacred World. The jade slip contained teleportation. Teleportation was one of the skills that could only be mastered after one had reached an extremely high level of understanding of the space-time rules. Among the immortal saints, anyone who could control teleportation was the best immortal saint. This time, he directly used the jade slip and teleported into the void. Jian Wushuang did not know how far he had teleported and where he would be teleported to. However, in the situation just now, he had no choice but to use teleportation to escape. After appearing in the void, Jian Wushuang's aura immediately became weak. Not only was he weak, but he was also very weak. The heaven-cleaving skill was the most powerful divine power, created by his master Xian Yi. It was extremely powerful. Although he could not exert 1/10 of its power, it was still too much of a burden for him to use it. Moreover, he had just used it twice. His divine power and mind had been extensively damaged after using it twice. He had indeed fallen into a weakened state. This was the first time he had encountered such a weakness since his reincarnation. However, Jian Wushuang could not care less at this moment. His expression was cold, and his mind was full of thoughts. I unscrupulously displayed the power of the life level, and performed the heaven-cleaving skill twice in a row. The power of the will of heaven has already arrived. The power of the will of heaven has completely locked onto my position. Although Taoist Xian Shun helped me out of my predicament in time, and allowed me to teleport away, now that my position has been exposed, the power of the will of heaven, as well as the mortal enemies of the seven-star mysterious sect in the core of the divine beginning world, the three masters of the saint realm, will immediately rush over. Even if their original bodies won't come in person, their consciousness doppelgangers will definitely come. When that time comes, they will definitely try to find my whereabouts. They will definitely turn the 9 realms of the Golden Crow, and even the surrounding territories upside down. I definitely can't go back to the 9 realms of the Golden Crow. Not only that, all the people who are close to me in the 9 realms of the Golden Crow must be moved immediately. Jian Wushuang was very clear about the danger he was facing. Not only would he face great danger, but he would also implicate the people around him. For example, his parents in this life. Chapter 29-24. Escape his parents in this life, his elder sister, second brother, and the people closest to him would be implicated. Jian Wushuang had to ask them to leave as soon as possible. But now, he did not know where he was. So there was only one way to take Zhui Yunfeng, and the others away. Jian Wushuang took out a message token. It was the first time he had taken it out since he got it. Miss Xiao Air, there's something I need your help with. Jian Wushuang had already sent the message. In the Witch Desert region, under the command of the Beiming Star Field in the Pil Sun Sacred World. It was the 12th month, and the snow covered the entire Burning Moon City with a layer of silver clothing. In the courtyard in the center of the City Lord's mansion, Zhui Yinfeng and Luo Xinqin stood together. Darling, do you remember when I was pregnant with Shuang Air? Luo Xinqin asked. Of course I remember. Zhui Yinfeng smiled. Shuang Air is a child with extraordinary talent. He stayed in your arms for 9 years, 9 months and 9 days, and it snowed in Burning Moon City for 9 years, 9 months and 9 days. Strangely, the snow stopped on the day Shuang Air was born, and the sky cleared in an instant. I wonder how this child is doing outside now. Luo Xinqin asked. I don't know, but with his talent and speed of improvement, his strength is probably many times stronger than before. He might have already reached the peak of the reverent god realm. His achievements are not what we can imagine, Zhui Yinfeng said with a smile. Yes. Luo Xinqin sighed softly. But at this moment, Wang, a figure appeared in the sky above the Burning Moon City's City Lord's mansion without warning. This figure wore a simple gray robe and a gray mask. As soon as he appeared, a majestic aura immediately enveloped him. Zhui Yinfeng, Luo Xinqin. A cold voice sounded both inside and outside the City Lord's mansion. The entire City Lord's residence instantly erupted into a clamor. The many cultivators in the residence looked up at the gray-robed masked figure with endless terror. Even the 2 God-fiend realm experts sent by the Great Tragedy sect to secretly protect Zhui Yinfeng and his wife were highly shocked at this moment. Greetings, my lord. May I know why my lord has come to my Burning Moon City? Zhui Yinfeng immediately stood up and said respectfully, You are Zhui Yinfeng? Is that your wife Luo Xinqin beside you? The gray-robed masked figure asked. Yes. Zhuo Yinfeng nodded subconsciously. If that's the case, then there's no mistake. Come with me. The gray-robed masked figure waved his hand, and immediately, Zhuo Yinfeng and Luo Xinqin lost the ability to resist. Instead, they were directly driven by the gray-robed masked figure to rush towards the surrounding void. Soon they disappeared from the world. It was not until the three of them left that the governor's mansion exploded. The two divine devil realm experts who were secretly protecting Zhuo Yinfeng and his wife were shocked. When Jian Wushuang left, he had reached an agreement with the Great Tragedy sect. Before Jian Wushuang returned, the Great Tragedy sect would do their best to ensure the safety of his parents. But now, Jian Wushuang's parents were in the governor's mansion of Burning Moon City. Had they been taken away? If Jian Wushuang did not see his parents when he came back, would he not be furious? Quick, report this to the sect master. The two divine demon realm experts of the Great Tragedy sect immediately sent a message. In a remote void in the Witch Desert region, the gray-robed masked figure suddenly stopped. Zhuo Yinfeng and Luo Xinqin were floating beside him. Zhuo Yinfeng and Luo Xinqin were also a little frightened. My lord, why did you bring us here? Zhuo Yinfeng could not help asking. Do you two have a son named Jianyi? The gray-robed masked man looked over. Jianyi? No, I only have two sons. One is Zhuo Peng, and the other is Jian Wushuang. There is no one named Jianyi, Zhuo Yinfeng said. Jian Wushuang. The gray-robed masked man's expression changed. He flipped his hand and took out a portrait. Is it the person in the portrait? Zhuo Yinfeng and Luo Xinqin glanced at the person in the portrait. They immediately recognized that it was Jian Wushuang. Yes, it's him. The person in the portrait is my Shuang heir, Zhuo Yinfeng said. That's right. You two wait here, the gray-robed masked man said coldly, but he did not explain much. Not long after, they're here. The gray-robed masked man suddenly raised his head. He saw two figures rushing over from the void not far away. One of the two people was also wearing a simple gray robe and a mask. As for the other person, it was Zhuo Bing. Bing heir. Zhuo Yinfeng and Luo Xinqin were both shocked when they saw Zhuo Bing. Father, mother, you're here too? Zhuo Bing was also extremely surprised. She was clearly still cultivating in the ancient Star Hall just now, but a gray-robed masked man directly barged in and brought her here with effective means. The experts in her ancient Star Hall, including the strongest divine master, did not even have the slightest chance to struggle. Not long after Zhuo Bing arrived, Zhuo Peng also arrived. He was also brought here by a gray-robed masked man. Since then, the four people closest to Jian Wushuang had all gathered. Everyone is here. Let's hurry up and leave this world. The three gray-robed masked men reached an agreement. Then, they immediately left with Zhuo Yinfeng, Zhuo Bing, and Zhuo Peng. Within the Dragon Phoenix Pavilion, the white-robed bald man and the will of the heavenly Tao worked together. In merely 2 hours, an enormous teleportation channel had already appeared in the sky. This spatial channel was enormous and boundless. After it was constructed entirely, only then did the will of the heavenly Tao completely dissipate. Soon after, numerous figures began to stride over from the other end of the spatial channel. A large number of figures appeared in the air of the Dragon Phoenix Pavilion. There were over 100 of them. However, terrifying was that the aura of each and every one of these people was exceptionally tyrannical. Any one of them was sufficient to cause the experts and disciples of the Dragon Phoenix Pavilion to tremble in fear. Just like the immortal saints of the Dragon Phoenix Pavilion, at this moment, all of them lowered their heads in fear. These people were all experts at the level of the immortal saints. In addition, there were 10 figures at the very front of the crowd. Their auras were towering and far surpassed the immortal saints. Those 10 people were actually the 10 supreme masters of laws. However, regardless of whether it was the immortal saints or the 10 masters of laws, they were all unable to conceal the existence of the white-robed bald man at the very front of the crowd. What the white-robed bald man had arrived at this moment was not his consciousness, but his true body. Chapter 29-25. Empty buildings, go find him. Even if we have to turn this territory and the surrounding territories upside down, we must find that brat's existence. Not only him, but also his family members in this life. Everyone related to him must be arrested and interrogated. We must find him at all costs. Although the white-robed bald man was still gentle, his voice was as cold as ice. The 10 rule masters and hundreds of immortal saints behind him all nodded solemnly and followed the many experts to search at the fastest speed possible. In the void below, the consciousness clone of the Supreme Emotion, Forgetting Valley's rule master, watched this scene with great astonishment. As expected, the original body of the rule master has arrived, and he brought a total of 10 rule masters and hundreds of powerful Saint Realm experts. That kid is too powerful. The shadowy figure was secretly shocked. Yet at the same time, the words that Jian Wushuang said when he left echoed in her mind. If Shuang Heir loses a hair or suffers any grievance, it'll wipe out your entire clan from now on. At first, the shadowy figure did not take these words to heart. But now, she did not dare to underestimate them. I hope this Saint Stage Master can find and kill that kid. Otherwise, I'm afraid my Supreme Emotion Valley will not be able to rest in peace in the future. The shadowy figure sighed lightly, and her consciousness clone had already begun to dissipate slowly. As for Lung Rushuang, when the white-robed bald man set up the formation, she had already instructed the cold and arrogant woman to bring Lung Rushuang back to Supreme Emotion Valley. She did not want to get involved in what happened next, nor did she dare to get involved. The news of the arrival of the third firmament experts, the core of the absolute beginning divine realm, had created a storm that swept through the entire 9 realms of the Golden Crow. At first, the experts of the 9 realms of the Golden Crow were baffled. They even had some doubts. However, when the powerful immortal saints, and even the legendary masters of laws, started to roam the 9 realms of the Golden Crow, the experts of the 9 realms of the Golden Crow immediately believed them. Especially when they knew that these experts were all coming for Jianyi, they were all shocked. After all, Jianyi was only a divine master. A mere divine master had such great power that he had sent out more than 100 immortal saints and 10 rule masters from the 3rd heaven to hunt him down. There was even news from the Dragon Phoenix Pavilion that Jianyi had violated the Heavenly Tao and was not tolerated by the Heavenly Tao. In the Dragon Phoenix Pavilion, the power of the Heavenly Tao had personally descended to kill Jian Wushuang, but he was saved at the last moment. This news also shocked countless people. In short, the name of Jian Yi once again resounded throughout the Golden Crow 9 realms. Crimson Rock Castle in the Pil Sun Sacred World. Dozens of immortal saints and several rule masters appeared in Crimson Rock Castle at the same time. The experts in Crimson Rock Castle felt the terrifying auras and were so scared that their legs went numb. Even the fort master of Crimson Rock Castle, Yin Sewer, who had already broken through to the immortal saint level, was stunned. Oh my God, she was an immortal saint after all. Although she had just broken through, her strength was still there. However, among the dozens of people in front of her, any one of them, even if it was just a vague aura, made her feel like she could not resist it. This was especially so for those at the very front. The aura of any one of them was enough to cause her to feel despair. Are you the realm lord of this world? At the very front of these experts, the white-robed bald man suddenly turned to look at Yin Sewer. His eyes flickered with a strange light. Before Yin Sewer could react, her gaze had already turned hollow. In the blink of an eye, Yin Sewer had been entirely controlled by the bewitching spirit. After that, she could no longer resist. Tell me everything you know about Jianyi, the white-robed bald man ordered. Yes. Yin Sewer nodded dully, and then told him everything she knew in detail. She told him everything, including Jian Wushuang's origin, and the connection between him and Crimson Rock Castle. Yin Sewer also mentioned the Beiming Starfield, and the Witch Desert region, where Jian Wushuang's move was born. Which desert region? After learning that the Witch Desert region was where Jian Wushuang was born, and that he had relatives in this life, the white-robed bald man's eyes lit up, and he immediately left. In less than 6 hours, the white-robed bald man and the others had arrived in the Witch Desert region. However, when they arrived, they knew that Jian Wushuang's relatives had been taken away by 3 mysterious experts not long ago, and they were nowhere to be found. In other words, Jian Wushuang's relatives were all gone. All three of them are wearing simple gray robes and gray masks. They are members of the Heaven-Cleaving Alliance. The white-robed bald man's heart sank. Bastards! The white-robed bald man was a little angry, but he was helpless. The Heaven-Cleaving Alliance was the most mysterious and terrifying in the absolute beginning divine realm. Their strength and methods were unfathomable. Moreover, the Heaven-Cleaving Alliance was not like the holy region that he controlled. His sacred region had an endless amount of resources within the third sky. Therefore, it could be said that it could control everything. However, outside the third heaven, his subordinates did not have much power. Just like in the Golden Crow 9 realms, he did not have the slightest bit of power involved. Therefore, if he wanted to mobilize experts, he could only temporarily open a space passage under the coordination of the will of the heavenly Tao, and let the experts in the third heaven descend. However, the Heaven-Cleaving Alliance was different. No matter which territory in the absolute beginning divine realm, no matter which corner, as long as the Heaven-Cleaving Alliance wanted to, they could mobilize several experts above the immortal saint realm as soon as possible. This was what the Heaven-Cleaving Alliance was good at. Its strength was spread across every corner of the divine beginning world. Although it was scattered and not completely concentrated, it was still extremely terrifying. Since that kid can ask the experts of the Heaven-Cleaving Alliance to transfer his family members, with the Heaven-Cleaving Alliance's methods in the endless territories, they can casually transfer his family members to some hidden territories. Even I can't find out, and neither can he. The white-robed bald man's face had become a little ugly. If Jian Wushuang was on his own, he would not care if he was on the run with his own strength. As long as he knew Jian Wushuang's approximate location, he could join forces with the power of the will of heaven. He would try to find Jian Wushuang through all kinds of means. But if Jian Wushuang used the power of the Heaven-Cleaving Alliance, or if he joined the Heaven-Cleaving Alliance, he would have nowhere to go. Chapter 29-26. The dust has settled in the void far away from the 9 realms of the Golden Crow. Jian Wushuang, as you instructed, I asked the Heaven-Cleaving Alliance to move your loved ones as quickly as possible. Now, the Heaven-Cleaving Alliance has sent news that your loved ones have gone to a very distant territory. I've also sent people to bring them here. I can guarantee that they won't be in danger. On the other end of the transmission token, a cold but heart-stirring voice was heard. Thank you, Miss Shower, Jian Wushuang said gratefully. You don't have to thank me. Just remember my favor. You and I are allies. In order to help you, I have paid a lot of money to get the Heaven-Cleaving Alliance to act as quickly as possible, so that you can move your relatives in time. But in the future, the things I want you to do for me will be much more difficult than this, Shower said. As long as I have enough strength, I will do my best, Jian Wushuang said. After breaking off the communication with Shower, Jian Wushuang was relieved to know that Zhu Yunfeng and the others had been safely transferred. At the same time, he was secretly glad. He was glad that he had made an ally in the Witch Desert region, Shower. Shower had also experienced reincarnation. Her origin was a mystery and her background was huge. The key was that she was a friend and not an enemy of the 7-star mysterious sect. That was why Jian Wushuang agreed to form an alliance with her. Although the alliance was formed, neither side had encountered any difficulties before, so there was no communication. But this time, Jian Wushuang had to ask for help from this ally. And this Miss Shower did not disappoint him. Although Shower could not move his close relatives in a short period of time, she had asked the Heaven-Cleaving Alliance. In this way, he could move his family members to a safe place in time. Father and mother have been moved. I have also sent a message to Shower to tell her to be careful. As long as those who are close to me are able to hide, for the time being, they should be fine. Jian Wushuang sighed lightly. This matter happened so suddenly that he had not been fully prepared. Therefore, it was somewhat urgent, but fortunately, there were no major changes. Now that everyone close to him in the 9 realms had been transferred and hidden, he was much more relieved. Next, he would certainly be ready to leave. But before he left, whoosh, Jian Wushuang suddenly waved his hand, and a figure appeared in the void in front of him. This figure was Lung Rushuang's master, Elder Qin. Jian Yi, Are you finally willing to let me out? Elder Qin stared at Jian Wushuang with a cold face. Jian Wushuang smiled. In the Dragon Phoenix Pavilion, he had been fighting with people, and even fighting against the heavenly Tao because of the urgent situation. At that time, he had put all his attention on his opponent. He had forgotten that Elder Qin had been suppressed in his Blood Mountain sword. It was not until he had completely left the battlefield and arrived in the void that Jian Wushuang remembered. Elder Qin, I'm sorry to have made you suffer, Jian Wushuang said apologetically. Humph, Elder Qin snorted, but she looked at Jian Wushuang with a strange look. Although she had been suppressed in the Blood Mountain sword, she had clearly seen the scene outside. She had witnessed Jian Wushuang's battle strength at the true saint level. Even the Dragon Phoenix Pavilion's biggest reliance, Saint Hong, could not stop him. This was just a small matter. Later, when facing 9 experts at the true saint level from the Supreme Emotion Valley, their divine bodies collapsed, and their souls were completely destroyed under the attacks of the 9 true saints. However, they did not die. In the end, they even used shocking techniques. They swept the 9 true saints with one sword and killed 8 of them on the spot. The terrifying strength and techniques completely frightened her. In the end, the consciousness avatar of the Rule Master appeared, and the power of the will of the heavenly Tao descended to perform the power of destruction. These were completely beyond what she could bear. Until now, Elder Qin still had not completely reacted, and her mind was still in a daze. She was very curious about what kind of secret Jian Wushuang had that caused the power of the will of heaven to descend. However, she did not intend to ask about it, and Jian Wushuang could not tell her. Elder Qin, there is one small thing I want to ask you, Jian Wushuang suddenly said. Speak. Elder Qin's voice was still cold. You are Shuang Er, the master of Little Phoenix. You must know her background, right? Jian Wushuang asked. He was indeed curious about Lung Rushwang's background in this life. It could not be helped. Lung Rushwang's talent in this life was too high. Moreover, Lung Rushwang could not recognize him in this life. This made Jian Wushuang wonder if something had happened to her during the reincarnation process. Lung Er's background. Elder Qin frowned slightly. He said, I don't know her background either. When I first met her, she was just a baby. She was just born not long ago in the Dragon Phoenix Sacred City. I happened to pass by a remote territory and found a large-scale heaven and earth phenomenon in that territory. I looked for the phenomenon and found her when she was a baby. At that time, there was no one around her. She just floated quietly in the void without crying. I saw that she was extraordinary, so I sent her back to the Dragon Phoenix Pavilion and let her grow up there. The phenomenon of heaven and earth? Jian Wushuang was a little surprised. If what Elder Qin said was true, then the Lung Rushwang in this life seemed to be born from heaven and earth. Yes, just like those unique special life forms in the divine beginning world. They were born naturally from heaven and earth. However, most of those special life forms had been polished and evolved over a long period of time before they gradually gained some intelligence and finally became alive. But Lung Rushwang, was she reincarnated? In addition, the special life forms in the absolute beginning divine world had extremely strong bloodlines and physiques. However, apart from her high comprehension ability and the fact that it was as easy as eating and drinking, Lung Rushwang did not have anything special about her bloodline? Forget it. Since Shuang Er has already gone to the Supreme Emotion Forgetting Valley, I won't be able to see her for a while. I'll wait until I become stronger, then I'll slowly find the answer. Jian Wushuang clenched his hands. Elder Qin, I'll see you again. After saying this, Jian Wushuang turned around and left. Moreover, the direction he went in was clearly the opposite of the 9 worlds of the Golden Crow. Chapter 29-27. Inkstone Realm. The primordial divine realm was vast and boundless. Not to mention the 3 heavens in the center, the endless territories beyond the 3 heavens were countless, and the territories they occupied were beyond imagination. After Jian Wushuang left the 9 realms of the Golden Crow, he used the space passage to pass through one territory after another. Thus, he passed through nearly 100 times on the way. It must be known that the cost of traveling from one territory to another territory was not small. On the contrary, The cost of traveling from one territory to another territory, which was separated by several, or even more than 10 territories, was even greater. After traveling nearly 100 times, the cost that Jian Wushuang had to pay was no less than hundreds of thousands of saint elixirs. It was comparable to the entire wealth of an ordinary immortal saint. Jian Wushuang had teleported almost 100 times, so that he could be further away from the 9 realms of the Golden Crow, and the 3 experts of the Saint Realm could not find him. As a result, Jian Wushuang did not know which territory he was in, and how far from the 9 realms of the Golden Crow. Let's ask someone first. Jian Wushuang smiled and rushed forward. In the vast sky, dark clouds covered the earth. Lightning snakes flickered in the dark clouds from time to time, as if dragons were rolling in them. This was a barren plain where a battle was going on. This battle was a massacre. A group of bandits suddenly targeted a team of experts with more than 10 people. More than 100 experts surrounded and killed them crazily. Among the group of over 10 experts, the strongest ones were only 2 peak divine masters. But, faced with the encirclement of over 100 experts, they were quickly defeated. Those bandits were also crazily chasing after these 2 people. Damn it! This isn't a place where bandits run rampant. So how did this group of bandits come here? A middle-aged man who wore a triangular helmet and was as strong as an ox roared as he fled. What bandits? This is a trap deliberately set up by someone to deal with us. If nothing goes wrong, it should be someone from our clan. If someone didn't inform us, how would these people know our whereabouts? The purple-haired older man shouted in a deep voice. Clan members, could it be? The strong middle-aged man was shocked. Other than that good brother of yours, who else would use that great formation to deal with us? The violet-haired older man shouted. The muscular middle-aged man's expression was somewhat unsightly. Let's flee. Let's see if we can escape with our luck. The violet-haired older man sighed softly. Behind him, over 100 experts were chasing closely, each of them brimming with killing intent. But right at this moment, Wang, a figure suddenly appeared in the air. The moment this figure appeared, a terrifying pressure came hurling down. The robust middle-aged man and the purple-haired older man immediately squatted in the air. The hundreds of experts chasing behind them also stopped. Everyone raised their heads in shock, looking at the young figure like a god in the air. This pressure is too strong. It's much stronger than Father was when he was alive. It's countless times stronger. Father was a high-level great divine master when he was alive, but compared to this person, he's like an ant. This person is very likely an immortal saint-level super expert. But, even if he's not, he's still the legendary unrivaled great divine master. The robust middle-aged man was shocked. This is our chance. The purple-haired elder was pleasantly surprised. He immediately bowed and said, Greetings, sir. What can I do for you? I want to ask you something. I hope you can answer me. Jian Wushuang looked down with a cold expression. Please ask, sir. The purple-haired elder was very respectful. Which realm is this? Jian Wushuang asked. Sir, this is the Inkstone realm, the purple-haired elder said. But at the same time, he immediately understood that the person in front of him should be an expert who had just arrived from the outside world. Inkstone realm. Jian Wushuang muttered to himself. When he was free in the 9 realms of the Golden Crow, he also saw the Starfield's map in the surrounding territories. The map was quite vast, but it did not mention the Inkstone realm. Obviously, his current location was very far away from the 9 realms of the Golden Crow. Let me ask you again, who are the realm masters of your Inkstone realm? Jian Wushuang asked again. My lord, there are 4 realm masters in the Inkstone realm, and each of them is a powerful immortal saint. I wonder who you are asking about. The purple-haired elder asked. 4 realm masters? Jian Wushuang was surprised. Usually, there was only 1 realm master in a realm, but there were 4 in the Inkstone realm. Jian Wushuang knew that the 4 realm masters would fight for their own interests. Which of the 4 realm masters is the closest to here? Jian Wushuang asked. I know. It's the Evergreen Realm Master. He lives in Evergreen Island, which is less than 10 days away, the purple-haired elder said. Give me the map of the Starfield. Jian Wushuang stretched out his hand. The purple-haired elder did not hesitate, and immediately handed the most comprehensive map of the star field to Jian Wushuang. Jian Wushuang took it, and immediately knew the location of the Evergreen Realm Master. He nodded and then looked at the hundreds of experts who had been chasing after the purple-haired elder and the middle-aged man. This deal ends here. You can leave. The hundreds of experts who were chasing after the purple-haired elder and the burly middle-aged man were extremely unwilling. However, after looking at Jian Wushuang, the leader of the hundreds of experts chose to endure. Let's go. The hundreds of experts immediately turned and left. Jian Wushuang's figure also disappeared. As for the purple-haired elder and the strong middle-aged man, they were overjoyed. Without any hesitation, they immediately set off and fled as fast as they could. Evergreen Island, the residence of the Evergreen Realm Lord. The Inkstone Realm was extremely vast, 3 to 4 times larger than an ordinary realm. Naturally, more experts were born. However, after a round of fighting, these experts gradually turned into 4 forces. Each of the 4 forces had a ruler, which was the 4 realm masters of the Inkstone realm. Among the 4 realm masters, Evergreen Realm Master was just an ordinary one. He was not strong, only at the level of an immortal saint. He was far from being a true saint. Jian Wushuang had already arrived at Evergreen Island. Chapter 29-28. Inquiry. Evergreen Island was vast and majestic, with countless towering palaces and courtyards. Many cultivators gathered in front of the main gate of the island. Most of them had reached the Great Divine Master level, and were waiting there. They were here to see the Evergreen Realm Lord. Please inform him that Jian Yuan is here to pay a visit, Jian Wushuang said politely. Jian Yuan. The guard guarding the gate looked Jian Wushuang up and down. Jian Wushuang smiled and slightly revealed his divine power aura. His realm had reached the advanced Great Divine Master level. Under the cover of black rock, his divine power aura had reached the limit of a divine master, but he could not reach the immortal saint level. When Xian Shendaoist gave him the black rock, he said that the black rock could only cover the aura of a mortal saint and below. Jian Wushuang gave the name Jian Yuan at the last minute. Even though the Inkstone realm was far away from the 9 realms of the Golden Crow, Jian Wushuang still did not dare to be careless. He did not dare to use his real name, or even the 2 aliases he used in the 9 realms of the Golden Crow. Jian Yi and Su Han, he did not dare to use them. Therefore, he could only choose another one. The guard also sensed Jian Wushuang's aura, and was immediately startled. Wait a moment. I'll immediately report it. The guard immediately reported this matter to the butler, who was usually in charge of Evergreen Island. But unfortunately, he was also a peak Great Divine Master. Jian Yuan? I've never heard of this name. I don't know where it came from. The Realm Lord is busy these days. He doesn't have time to see this and that. Go and tell him to wait outside for a few decades. The butler ordered. The guard immediately returned and conveyed the butler's message. Seeing this, Jian Wushuang could not help smiling bitterly, but then his body shook. Boom! A terrifying divine power directly covered the entire Evergreen Island. This divine power was earth-shaking and suppressed everything. In an instant, countless cultivators in Evergreen Island began to tremble. At the island's main entrance, the experts who were waiting quietly looked at Jian Wushuang in horror. The guard and the housekeeper who had walked out of the island were also terrified. Jian Wushuang could not be bothered with them. He just calmly looked at the place not far away. There an aura slowly rose. May I know which friend has come to my Evergreen Island? A gentle voice slowly spread. A middle-aged man in a green robe with stubble slowly appeared in the void above. Seeing this middle-aged man in a green robe, many experts in Evergreen Island immediately showed respect. This middle-aged man in a green robe was the Realm Lord of Evergreen Island. He was also one of the 4 Realm Lords of the Inkstone Realm, the Evergreen Realm Lord. Jian Yuan greets the Evergreen Realm Lord. Jian Wushuang said politely. Yes, a divine master? The Evergreen Realm Lord looked at Jian Wushuang in astonishment. He had sensed the divine power, which was why he had shown himself. But he had never expected that it was only a divine master who was emitting the divine power. Although Jian Wushuang was only a divine master, his casual standing gave the Evergreen Realm Lord great pressure. As a result, The Evergreen Realm Lord did not dare to underestimate him. This divine master is not simple. This was the first thought that came to the Evergreen Realm Lord's mind. My friend, let's have a chat on the island. The Evergreen Realm Lord invited him. Thank you. Jian Wushuang thanked him, and immediately followed the Evergreen Realm Lord to the center of the island. In the center of a magnificent palace, the Evergreen Realm Lord ordered some delicacies and wine for Jian Wushuang to enjoy. You are not from the Inkstone Realm, are you? The Evergreen Realm Lord asked casually. Have you noticed, Realm Lord? Jian Wushuang smiled. Of course. I know many powerful divine masters in the Inkstone Realm. Many of them have been accepted by me. You are so powerful, but I have never heard of you. So naturally, you are not from the Inkstone Realm, the Evergreen Realm Lord said with a smile. Indeed, I'm from another realm. As for why I came to the Inkstone Realm today, I have something to ask you, Evergreen Realm Lord, Jian Wushuang said. You can tell me, my young friend. The Evergreen Realm Lord looked at him. You've been famous for so many years and are very knowledgeable. Have you ever heard of the Heaven-Cleaving Alliance? Jian Wushuang asked. Heaven-Cleaving Alliance? The Evergreen Realm Lord was stunned, but his expression immediately turned solemn. I have naturally heard of the famous Heaven-Cleaving Alliance in the Divine Beginning world. I even yearn for it. However, it's not easy to join the Heaven-Cleaving Alliance. If that's the case, do you know where the nest of the Heaven-Cleaving Alliance is located in the nearby territories, Your Excellency? Jian Wushuang asked. The Heaven-Cleaving Alliance was recognized as the #1 alliance in the absolute beginning divine world. Its power was spread over every territory and every corner of the absolute beginning divine world. To achieve this, the Heaven-Cleaving Alliance needed to have a spatial channel to connect the corners of each territory and had to have secret strongholds in those territories. These strongholds were known as nests in the Heaven-Cleaving Alliance. For example, there was a secret nest around the territory of the Golden Crow 9 Realms. All the members of the Heaven-Cleaving Alliance in the Golden Crow 9 Realms and the surrounding territories would go to that secret nest if they wanted to take on missions. Of course, this was also what Bone Emperor told him. He had a Heaven-Cleaving token, and he was powerful enough. So he wanted to join the Heaven-Cleaving Alliance. Although originally, he wanted to wait for Lung Rushwang's matter to come to an end before he went to the Heaven-Cleaving Alliance's nest in the surrounding territories of the Golden Crow 9 Realms. After passing the Heaven-Cleaving token to participate in the assessment of the Heaven-Cleaving Alliance, he officially became a member of the Heaven-Cleaving Alliance. However, he had to flee from the territory of the 9 Realms of the Golden Crow and come to the Inkstone Realm, which was an unknown distance away from the 9 Realms of the Golden Crow. Here, Jian Wushuang did not know where the secret nest of the Heaven-Cleaving Alliance was, so he could only invite people to inquire about it. That was the main reason why he came to look for the Evergreen Realm Master. The Heaven-Cleaving Alliance's lair. The Evergreen Realm Lord frowned slightly. My young friend, as far as I know, there is no Heaven-Cleaving Alliance's lair in the Inkstone Realm. However, I have vaguely heard that there is one in the territory near the Inkstone Realm. However, I don't know the exact location of the lair. After all, I have never really dealt with the Heaven-Cleaving Alliance. You don't know? Jian Wushuang narrowed his eyes slightly, but he was not surprised. However, although I don't know the location of the Heaven-Cleaving Alliance's secret nest, someone in my Inkstone Realm does. The Evergreen Realm Lord suddenly changed the topic. Chapter 2929, Shuedong King, who is it? Jian Wushuang immediately looked at the Evergreen Realm Lord. Shuedong King. The Evergreen Realm Lord smiled. Shuedong King used to be an invincible divine master in the Inkstone Realm. When he was a divine master, his comprehension of rules and Tao had already reached the level of an immortal saint. He even created an absolute art at the level of a saint. Later on, he paid a price to obtain a Heaven-Cleaving token and passed the Heaven-Cleaving Alliance's test to become a member of the Heaven-Cleaving Alliance. Jian Wushuang's eyes immediately lit up. Since Shuedong King was a member of the Heaven-Cleaving Alliance, He must know the location of the secret lair of the heaven-cleaving alliance around the Inkstone realm. Where is Shuedong King now? Jian Wushuang asked. Don't worry, my friend. The Evergreen Realm Lord said indifferently. Shuedong King is in the Inkstone realm. It's not difficult for you to find him. Just ask a slightly stronger Great Divine Master and you'll know. However, Shuedong King has a very strange temper. If you want him to tell you the location of the secret lair of the Heaven-Cleaving Alliance, you'll have to go through a lot of trouble. Oh, Jian Wushuang's expression changed. He has a weird temper. How weird is that? It's simple. He likes to fight. He's a battle maniac. He only respects experts who are stronger than him or are recognized by him. It's hard for ordinary experts to meet him or to befriend him because he won't talk to you at all. Instead, he takes the initiative and is very enthusiastic when facing those who are stronger than him and can be recognized by him. My friend, if you want to see him, you have to be prepared in advance, said the Evergreen Realm Lord. Prepared? You mean fight with him? Jian Wushuang asked curiously. Of course. You have to fight with him and get his approval before he will talk to you. In addition, he has deliberately set up a series of powerful means in his residence. These means are so powerful that no ordinary person can break in. In other words, you have to go through the means he has set up over the years before you can really see him, said the Evergreen Realm Lord. So harsh. Jian Wushuang was stunned. They had met each other not long ago. If Shuedong King did not want to meet him, he could just disappear. However, he had deliberately set up many means in his residence. No matter who it was, they had to break through all the means to meet him. Shuedong King is indeed eccentric, but it should not be difficult for me to break through his means with my strength, Jian Wushuang said. Don't be too confident, my friend. I forgot to tell you that Shuedong King has made a breakthrough to the Immortal Saint level not long ago. His battle strength is much stronger than mine, so his tricks are naturally more powerful, said the Evergreen Realm Lord. A breakthrough? Jian Wushuang was stunned, but then he shrugged helplessly and said, No matter what, I have to try. Thank you, Evergreen Realm Lord. Goodbye. Jian Wushuang stood up and left after saying his thanks. Evergreen Realm Lord looked at Jian Wushuang's departure with a strange expression. Jian Yuan is not only in the Inkstone realm, but also in the surrounding territories. I've never heard of him. However, the pressure he gives me is very great. It's even greater than the pressure from the other 3 realm lords in the Inkstone realm. Where did this expert come from? Did he really come to my Inkstone realm just for the secret lair of the Heaven-Cleaving Alliance? The Evergreen Realm Lord pondered for a moment before shaking his head, no longer thinking about it. On top of a smooth cliff, there was a huge scarlet castle. This red castle was extremely famous in the entire Inkstone realm. After all, that Shuedong King who had already broken through to the Immortal Saint realm and could threaten the 4 realm lords lived here. Around the Scarlet Castle, a layer of scarlet mist surrounded the castle, flowing normally like a scarlet river. From time to time, faint blood-colored bubbles would appear. In the deepest part of the castle, 7th young master, go back. The clan leader misses you every day. Even if you still have some resentment toward what happened back then, it has been so many years. No matter what you do, you still have to care about the relationship between father and son. A white-haired old man stood below the steps. He looked eagerly at a blood-haired, blood-robed man above him. That blood-haired, blood-robed man was none other than the Shuedong King. The relationship between father and son? Hee, how laughable. Back then, he complained that my cultivation speed was slow, and that I didn't live up to expectations. When he beat and scolded me countless times, I could still understand, and still be able to consider the relationship between father and son. But back then, I accidentally provoked a slightly more powerful clan, and he directly tied me up and sent me to the other party's residence. When I was at the other party's disposal, did he ever consider the relationship between father and son? Back then, if it wasn't for my intelligence and the fact that I knew how to endure humiliation and burden, and that I was finally able to survive under the endless torture of that Fong clan, did he ever miss me at that time? Did he ever come to visit me? I'm afraid that at that time, I had already become an abandoned child in his hands, in order to quell the fury of that Fong clan, right? At that time, he did not care about my life or death at all. Now that I've become stronger, he misses me. Does he have to care about the relationship between father and son? What a joke! What a big joke! Shui Dongqing sneered, but his voice was unusually cold. Scram. Go back, and tell him that I've already broken off my relationship with him. Tell him to stop bothering me in the future. Otherwise, don't blame me for being impolite. Shui Dongqing waved his sleeve. A terrifying aura, that had already reached the level of an undying saint, directly pressed down on the white-haired old man. The white-haired old man's expression changed drastically, and he forcefully endured the pressure. He continued. Seventh young master. The clan has encountered a great crisis this time. No matter what grudges you have with the clan leader, I beg you, on account of the fact that you share the same bloodline, no matter what, you must lend a hand. Lend a hand? If I don't personally exterminate them, it's already very worthy of them. Shui Dongqing snorted coldly, but he was already completely enraged in his heart. He waved his hand, and a majestic force immediately acted on the white-haired elder. The white-haired elder was severely injured. He spat out a mouthful of blood and shot backward in a sorry state. In the blink of an eye, he had already disappeared in front of Shui Dongqing. Although the white-haired elder was sent flying, Shui Dongqing's anger did not completely disappear in the palace. The entire palace was still under great pressure and did not calm down for a long time. At this time, Jian Wushuang arrived in front of the Scarlet Castle. Chapter 2930, Forced Entry. Just before Jian Wushuang arrived at the Scarlet Castle, he saw the white-haired elder walk out of the castle in a sorry state. The white-haired elder's face was obviously a little ugly. The white-haired elder naturally saw Jian Wushuang. Your Excellency, are you here to visit Shui Dongqing? The white-haired elder looked at Jian Wushuang. Yes. Jian Wushuang nodded. If that's the case, I advise you to leave first and come back soon, the white-haired elder said. Why? Jian Wushuang asked, puzzled. Shui Dongqing is currently in a rage. It's too risky to visit him at this time. With his way of doing things, if he doesn't like you later, he might directly kill you, the white-haired elder said. Oh, there's such a thing. Jian Wushuang raised his eyebrows and then smiled. Let's try. If he wants to kill me, we have to see if he has the ability to do so. After saying that, Jian Wushuang flew directly into the Scarlet Castle. Seeing this, the white-haired elder was stunned. This man wants to break into the residence of the seventh young master? Is he courting death? Now 99% of the experts in the Inkstone realm knew that Shui Dongqing had become an immortal saint. His battle strength was probably even stronger than that of the four realm lords. The techniques he had deployed in his castle were also very powerful. Even ordinary immortal saints would not dare to break into it, but Jian Wushuang, from the moment he rushed out, his aura was revealed. He was obviously a divine master. How dare a divine master barge into the castle where Shui Dongqing lives? The white-haired elder thought that Jian Wushuang was tired of living, but suddenly boom! A violent boom suddenly resounded in the void. The white-haired elder's eyes immediately widened. He saw that the layer of a red river surrounding the Scarlet Castle had wrapped the entire castle tightly. But now, in the middle of the Scarlet River, a huge hole had appeared. This hole was too big, and it was obvious that it had been forcefully blasted open by someone. After this hole appeared, the entire Scarlet River collapsed. He actually broke through seventh young master's defensive measures on the castle with a single strike. The white-haired old man had a look of disbelief on his face. At the same time, in the deepest part of the Scarlet Castle, Shui Dongqing, who had not completely calmed down, also sensed the commotion outside and immediately raised his head. My first attack was actually defeated in a frontal attack without any warning. Was it defeated in one blow? Shui Dongqing's eyes narrowed slightly, and he immediately rose up. Jian Wushuang grinned as he looked at the collapsed Scarlet River. According to Evergreen Realm Lord, I don't need to say anything to Shui Dongqing. I just need to have absolute strength to convince him, or make him acknowledge me. In that case, there's no need for me to be so polite. Jian Wushuang raised his head and looked ahead. He could vaguely see layers of restrictive moves. The one that had just been defeated was only the first layer of the Scarlet Castle, which was relatively weak. There were still 3 more layers of measures waiting for him. Only after passing through all the remaining 3 layers of measures could he enter the center of the Scarlet Castle and see the king. Boom! Jian Wushuang immediately burst into speed and shot forward into the void. In just a moment, Jian Wushuang encountered the second move of the Scarlet Castle. Break! Jian Wushuang still threw out a brutal punch. This punch contained a terrifying divine power, as if it could break the world. It hit the first move of the restriction in front of him, which shook crazily, and then collapsed in the next moment. The second move has also been broken, and it's still just a single strike. The white-haired elder was even more shocked when he saw this. However, Jian Wushuang continued to rush forward. Soon, the third move appeared in front of him. It was also a great restriction. However, the power of this restriction was obviously much stronger than the previous 2. Facing this restriction, Jian Wushuang no longer fought with his bare hands. Instead, he directly took out the Blood Mountain sword. Whoosh! With a casual slash, he activated his boundless sword art, which was 33,000 feet tall. A huge sword light struck the restriction, and it was instantly cut open. Then, Jian Wushuang encountered the fourth and final restriction. Whoosh! It was still a slash, but it was extremely sharp. With a mournful sword light, it forcefully cut open a gap in the restriction. Jian Wushuang passed through the gap and entered the center of the Scarlet Castle. Outside the castle, the white-haired elder was a little stunned. A divine master easily defeated the 4 restrictions placed on the castle by the 7th young master. Who is this divine master? The white-haired elder exclaimed. In the void at the center of the Scarlet Castle, the figure of Shuedong King floated there. His eyes flashed with a glimmer as he stared at Jian Wushuang. Divine master? Shuedong King was shocked. He had personally set up these 4 restrictions, so he knew how powerful they were. Even an ordinary immortal saint like the 4 realm lords of the Inkstone realm would not be able to break in so easily, let alone a divine master. But this divine master had actually broken in. Even I, back when I was at the divine master realm, wouldn't have such terrifying combat strength. This person, the anger on Shuedong King's face had completely disappeared. What replaced it was excitement, a thick sense of excitement. At the same time, a shocking battle intent rose up. Just as the Evergreen Realm Lord had said, this Shuedong King was a battle maniac. What he liked the most were fierce battles, especially when he fought with experts. However, the Inkstone realm was too small. The 4 known realm lords were only ordinary immortal saints. Before he had made the breakthrough, he was still in awe of them. But now, he did not care about their strength at all. Therefore, even if the 4 realm lords came personally, they could not make him excited. But now Jian Wushuang's appearance had aroused his long-lost fighting spirit, which was exceptionally strong. Who are you? Shuedong King asked excitedly. Jian Yuan. Jian Wushuang smiled and said, after all, this is your residence, so it's not convenient for us to fight. How about we go to the nearby void? Okay. Shuedong King nodded without hesitation, and immediately went to the void next door with Jian Wushuang. Chapter 2931. Jian Wushuang and Shuedong King. The void near the Scarlet Castle was above a vast sea. The endless sea water was flowing slowly, and the entire sea surface seemed very calm. But this calm was quickly broken by someone. Shuedong King, I asked you to make the first move. Jian Wushuang stood there and said grandly. Haha, you're so confident. In that case, I want stand on ceremony. Shuedong King laughed loudly, and immediately took out a long saber. A majestic aura rose from his body. Shuedong King suddenly rushed forward. At the same time, his body split into 2, turning into 2 identical figures. Well, this is... Jian Wushuang could not help being surprised. When he saw the 2 figures, Jian Wushuang immediately understood that they were just illusions that Shuedong King had used a special method. However, these illusions were extraordinary, and even he could not tell which one was real. It was not until Shuedong King appeared in front of him and raised the long saber in his hand, that Jian Wushuang was able to determine which one was real. Buzz! Shuedong King struck out with his saber straight. The saber light was dazzling and extremely domineering. It immediately formed a huge saber river in the void and spread toward Jian Wushuang. Jian Wushuang only smiled faintly. Divine power surged in his right hand. He raised the Blood Mountain sword and directly faced the long saber. When the long saber and the Blood Mountain sword collided head-on, an extremely domineering power contained in the long saber immediately came into effect. This power, Jian Wushuang's expression changed. He staggered, but he could not help taking a few steps back. The long saber took advantage of the situation and slashed toward Jian Wushuang's head. Jian Wushuang was surprised, but he immediately dodged to the side and dodged the saber. Your strength is not bad. Jian Wushuang looked at Shuedong King. Shuedong King's strength was indeed impressive. In that moment of collision, an extremely powerful force came from the long saber. It was much stronger than that of an ordinary immortal saint. Although it was not as strong as a true saint, the gap between them was very small. Shuedong King is indeed worthy of being a member of the Heaven-Cleaving Alliance at the Divine Master level. Now that he has reached the Immortal Saint level, his strength has soared again. Although he is not comparable to a true saint, he is definitely a top false saint, Jian Wushuang thought. There were two kinds of immortal saints, false saint and true saint. The false saint was the most common type of immortal saint. Although his cultivation had indeed reached the immortal saint level, he had not truly mastered the immortal body and could not fully display his strength. True saint, on the other hand, had completely mastered the immortal body and could perfectly display his strength. Such a true saint was much more powerful than a false saint. For example, the immortal saints in the Golden Crow 9 realms were almost all false saints with different strengths. As for true saints, there were only two of them. One was the Bone Emperor, and the other was the Dragon Phoenix Pavilion Saint Hong. Moreover, even if they were true saints, there were differences in strength. Moreover, in the absolute beginning divine realm, true saints were divided into 7 levels, which represented 7 different levels. These 7 different levels could be based on their understanding of laws and Tao. There were also unique skills that showed that Saint Hong was only a rank 1 true saint. As for Bone Emperor, the publicly acknowledged number 1 expert in the 9 realms of the Golden Crow, there were rumors that he had long reached the pinnacle of a rank 1 true saint. There were also rumors that he had broken through to become a rank 2 true saint, but no one knew how he did it. A top false saint is indeed very powerful in the Inkstone realm. No wonder the Evergreen Realm Lord was a little afraid of Shuedong King. Jian Wushuang chuckled. The Evergreen Realm Lord and the other 3 realm lords in the Inkstone realm were only false saints and had average strength. If it was a one-on-one fight, no one would be a match for the Shuedong King. A divine master was able to block one of my strikes. You are qualified to be called a monster just because of that. Next, the bloodthirsty smile on the Shuedong King's face was followed by his figure floating out again. 2 identical figures appeared at the same time. Whoosh! Whoosh! The 2 figures flashed one after another and appeared in front of Jian Wushuang in the blink of an eye. Shuedong King raised the long saber in his hand again and swung it at Jian Wushuang. Jian Wushuang did not show any weakness. He had exerted his divine power and swordsmanship to the fullest. Clang! 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 The low sound of metal colliding rang out continuously. Blood Mountain sword and the long saber collided again and again. Each time, a large amount of power swept out and affected the sea surface below. Huge waves immediately rose up from the calm sea surface. Each of these huge waves was over 100 feet tall and incomparably majestic. The entire sea seemed to be roaring and shrill due to the fierce battle between the two. Jian Yuan, is this all you've got? Shuedong King shouted in a low voice during the fierce battle. He did not use his full strength, but even so, he still had an absolute advantage in the battle with Jian Wushuang, which made him somewhat dissatisfied. Upon hearing Shuedong King's words, Jian Wushuang could not help but smile. After all, the opponent is a top false saint, and he is infinitely close to a true saint. If I don't use my secret skill or some other means, it will be a little difficult to fight. Jian Wushuang smiled faintly. The star power in his body had been directly activated. The 7-star secret skill had been used. This secret skill instantly raised his realm from advanced Great Divine Master to peak Great Divine Master, and his divine power suddenly soared. Shuedong King, now you and I will fight again. Jian Wushuang grinned and moved forward. The Blood Mountain sword suddenly turned into a bolt of lightning and slashed out. This sword move was extremely swift and fierce. Shuedong King immediately sensed that Jian Wushuang's sword move seemed to have increased in power. A trace of excitement flashed in his eyes, and he immediately brandished his long saber to meet it. Clang! There was a loud sound, but this time, both of them retreated at the same time. Shuedong King's right hand, which was holding the long saber tightly, was still a little troublesome. How can a divine master be so powerful? Shuedong King was shocked. He did not know that Jian Wushuang had only used the 7-star secret skill. He had not used the Divine Punishment Expert or the 9 Luminary Star Armor. He had not really guided the sword essence in the Blood Mountain sword. Even so, Jian Wushuang's divine power was no weaker than his. Once Jian Wushuang went all out, his battle strength would be at the true saint level. Although he was not the best among the first stage true saints, he was definitely not weak. Chapter 2932, Approval. Shuedong King, let's fight again. Jian Wushuang laughed and suddenly waved his hand, causing streams of black light to appear in the void in front of him. These streams of black light were 18 underworld blood divine swords with astonishing auras. As soon as the 18 dark blood divine swords appeared, under Jian Wushuang's control, they immediately fused together perfectly at the fastest speed. Buzz! A faint humming sound, like the sound of a sword, slowly sounded in the world. Although the sound was not loud, it was extremely strange. In an instant, it overshadowed the roar of the sea below. In the void, a brand new black divine sword that was only 2 meters long but extremely wide appeared out of thin air. The moment this 2-meter-long black divine sword appeared, the world around it suddenly turned gray. This gray-white seemed to have sunk into an endless sea of snow. There was a vast expanse of whiteness everywhere, and the only black color in this vast expanse of whiteness was the black divine sword in the center of the void. The black magic sword had become the sole focus of the world. Go! Jian Wushuang spat out a word, and the black magic sword instantly turned into a bolt of lightning and shot toward the direction of Shuedong King. The black magic sword pierced through the void, but before it could get close, the violent sound of wind breaking caused Shuedong King's expression to change. Shuedong King did not have the time to think too much. He instantly brandished the long blade in his hand. This long blade was like a river of stars hanging in the sky, forcefully tearing a path through the vast white world. The void trembled. In the blink of an eye, the black divine sword collided with Shuedong King's long blade. The power of the 4th stage of the reincarnation sword formation, the world of ice and snow, also completely erupted at this moment. Boom! Boom! Shuedong King felt his arm go slightly numb, and he immediately retreated. As for the black magic sword, although it was not far away, it only shook slightly before it continued to shoot out. At the same time, Jian Wushuang's body also flew out in a strange manner. Boom! Boom! The black magic sword flew toward Shuedong King again, and again in an extremely tyrannical manner. Jian Wushuang also displayed his swordsmanship, displaying it around Shuedong King again and again. The speed of his swordsmanship was extremely fast, and the power was also extremely powerful. With the combination of the two, Shuedong Wang was completely suppressed. In just a moment. Stop, stop! Shuedong King hurriedly shouted to stop. Jian Wushuang smiled faintly and stopped what he was doing. Seeing this, Shuedong King let out a sigh of relief. Then he looked at Jian Wushuang with a burning gaze. It's incredible that a divine master can be so powerful. Jian Yuan, I rarely admire you, but I have to admire you today. It's amazing that a divine master can fight with me to this extent. Jian Wushuang raised his eyebrows. He knew that although Shuedong King had asked him to stop, it did not mean that he had won. He could see that Shuedong King had held back. Some of his powerful secret skills and trump cards should not have been used. If he went all out, his battle strength should be comparable to an ordinary first-rank true saint. However, it was clear that although Shui Dongqing liked to fight, he would not use his trump card to fight with others for no reason. Shui Dongqing, I'm here to ask you something, Jian Wushuang said directly. He had already proven his strength, and it was obvious that Shui Dongqing had approved of him. Therefore, Jian Wushuang could state his purpose of coming here directly. You must be asking about the Heaven-Cleaving Alliance, right? Shui Dongqing looked at Jian Wushuang. Jian Wushuang was stunned. He had come for the Heaven-Cleaving Alliance, but he had not told Shui Dongqing before. He had only told the Evergreen Realm Lord. Could it be that the Evergreen Realm Lord had sent him a message before? I don't know, but I guessed it. Shui Dongqing smiled. I, Shui Dongqing, have a bad temper and don't have a good relationship with people. Usually, those who come to see me have more or less asked for my help. But with your strength, you don't need me to do anything for you. Besides, you're only a divine master. But a divine master is so powerful. You're a monster. A monster like you came to see me only because of the Heaven-Cleaving Alliance. Indeed, I'm here for the Heaven-Cleaving Alliance. Jian Wushuang nodded and admitted directly. I've just arrived in the Inkstone Realm. I don't know if there is a nest of the Heaven-Cleaving Alliance around the Inkstone Realm, so I came to ask. There is a nest of the Heaven-Cleaving Alliance nearby. Shui Dongqing nodded slightly. This nest is not too far from the Inkstone Realm. If you want to go, I can show you the way. However, not everyone can enter the nest of the Heaven-Cleaving Alliance. Only the official members of the Heaven-Cleaving Alliance, or you have a Heaven-Cleaving token. I have a Heaven-Cleaving token. Jian Wushuang took out his Heaven-Cleaving token. Seeing the Heaven-Cleaving token, Shui Dongqing raised his eyebrows. It's easy with the Heaven-Cleaving token. I can take you there directly. When do you plan to go? Shui Dongqing asked. Let's go now. Jian Wushuang said. Okay, let's go. I haven't been to the Heaven-Cleaving Alliance's lair for a long time. I don't know if there are any missions suitable for me. Shui Dongqing smiled and led the way. Jian Wushuang naturally followed. On the way, Shui Dongqing and Jian Wushuang chatted casually. Brother Jian, you're a divine master, but your battle strength is so amazing. You should be very famous, but I've explored the surrounding territories of the Inkstone Realm, but I've never heard of your name. Why? Shui Dongqing asked. To tell you the truth, I don't come from the border. My hometown is quite far from here, so of course you don't know, Jian Wushuang said. Is that so? Shui Dongqing understood. Since you have the Heaven-Cleaving token, it should be easy for you to pass the assessment of the Heaven-Cleaving Alliance with your strength. However, you still have to be careful. After all, everything is in case. The assessment of the Heaven-Cleaving Alliance is usually very harsh, and even a little unusual. Oh. Jian Wushuang's expression changed. Shui Dongqing was an official member of the Heaven-Cleaving Alliance, and had really participated in the assessment of the Heaven-Cleaving Alliance. Since he said so, Jian Wushuang naturally would not be careless. By the way, Brother Jian, when you arrive at the Heaven-Cleaving Alliance later, before you participate in the assessment, someone will ask you if you have been recommended. When that time comes, Shui Dongqing had not finished his words. Jian Wushuang said directly, Shui Dongqing, I'm sorry. Not long ago, I promised someone that I would treat him as a referral. That's why he gave me the Heaven-Cleaving token. Chapter 2933. Secret Lair. Jian Wushuang had indeed promised Bone Emperor to make him a referral. However, Bone Emperor had not given him a Heaven-Cleaving token, but a scroll of Heaven Sealing map. Is that so? That's a pity. Shui Dongqing sighed. He had fought with Jian Wushuang before, so he knew how terrifying Jian Wushuang was. If his battle strength was so terrifying at the Divine Master level, how powerful would he be when he broke through to become an immortal saint? According to Shui Dongqing's estimation, Jian Wushuang was almost certain to become an official member of the Heaven-Cleaving Alliance, and it was a certainty that he would become an Earth-level member. Once Jian Wushuang broke through to become an immortal saint, the possibility of becoming a Heaven-level member was very high. In the future, He might even become an Emperor-grade member of the Heaven-Cleaving Alliance, or even a legendary original-grade member. The person who introduced Jian Wushuang to the Heaven-Cleaving Alliance would also receive a large reward. Of course, Shui Dongqing coveted this reward. Unfortunately, Jian Wushuang had already promised others, so he could not force him. While they were talking, they had already passed through many territories through the space tunnel. Soon, they arrived at a hidden dark void. There was no light in this dark void, nor was there any material existence. "We're here." Shui Dongqing stopped. "We're here. Right here?" Jian Wushuang was a little surprised. He looked carefully ahead, but he did not see anything strange in front of him, either with his naked eyes or with his soul power. In his eyes it was just an ordinary void. "Haha, just watch." Shui Dongqing gave a strange smile, but he reached out his hand and pointed at the void in front of him. Immediately, a trace of divine power spread out, which spread to the void. What surprised Jian Wushuang was that the dark void, which Jian Wushuang did not feel strange at all, began to ripple. These ripples spread out in all directions. Soon, an exquisite attic appeared in the void in front of him. "This space-time is so strange." Jian Wushuang was surprised. "When I first came here, I was just like you. Later, I found out that each nest of the Heaven-Cleaving Alliance was connected to each other by a special treasure. That treasure is extremely strange. No matter where it is, it can perfectly hide and protect the nest of the Heaven-Cleaving Alliance. Don't underestimate this nest of the Heaven-Cleaving Alliance in the endless territories. However, because it is connected to that treasure, even if a Rule Master came, he would not be able to break into this nest by force," said Shui Dongqing. "So powerful." Jian Wushuang was shocked. The Heaven-Cleaving Alliance was very powerful in the Divine Beginning world. It was spread across all the territories of the Divine Beginning world. The secret layers of the Heaven-Cleaving Alliance were numerous in the Divine Beginning world. However, none of the layers were connected to a unique treasure of the Heaven-Cleaving Alliance. Each of the layers was perfectly hidden, and even Rule Masters could not touch them. Such a method was indeed impressive. Only official members of the Heaven-Cleaving Alliance, or those who have the Heaven-Cleaving token, can enter the secret layers of the Heaven-Cleaving Alliance. "Brother Jian, let's go in," said Shui Dongqing. "Okay." Jian Wushuang nodded. Jian Wushuang and Shui Dongqing immediately entered the attic side by side. The attic did not look big from the outside, but it actually had a universe inside. As soon as he entered the pavilion, Jian Wushuang appeared in a large hall. The hall was very vast, and there were all kinds of chairs and tables around it. However, there were only 2 or 3 people in such a large hall, which made it very quiet. The 2 or 3 people were wearing the same gray robes and gray masks. "Why is it so quiet?" Jian Wushuang was surprised. "It's normal. After all, this is the endless territory, not the boundless third heaven, where experts are as numerous as clouds. Not to mention the immortal saint. Even the invincible divine master is pitifully few here. Naturally, not many people become members of Heaven-Cleaving Alliance. In the territory surrounding this secret lair, there are no more than 20 members of the Heaven-Cleaving Alliance," said Shui Dongqing. "Less than 20? So few." Jian Wushuang was stunned. "Less? Brother Jian, you must know how high the threshold of the Heaven-Cleaving Alliance is. For example, even the invincible divine master needs a certain level of strength and luck before he can truly join. There are only dozens of realms around this nest. It's already very good to have nearly 20 members," said Shui Dongqing. "That's true." Jian Wushuang nodded. "Although there aren't many of them, they are of high quality. Even the weakest one should be an invincible divine master, and most of them are immortal saints. It's no wonder that the Heaven-Cleaving Alliance can gather more than 3 immortal saints in any corner of the beginning divine realm in such a short period of time. By the way, why are they all wearing the same gray robes and gray masks?" Jian Wushuang asked again. "Gray robes and gray masks. These are the attire of ordinary members of the Heaven-Cleaving Alliance," Shui Dongqing explained. "After all, the Heaven-Cleaving Alliance is an extremely loose and unconstrained union. There are countless experts who have joined the alliance, and many of them have a certain status. Most of them cannot look at others with their real faces. Therefore, after becoming a member of the Heaven-Cleaving Alliance, they will be given such gray robes and masks. The gray robe and the mask can not only represent his position in the Heaven-Slaying Alliance, but also conceal his aura. For example, your aura is as hot as fire, but through the mask, your aura can become very gentle and calm, and outsiders cannot see it. Is that so? Jian Wushuang understood. Of course, although the gray robe and mask are the attire of an ordinary member, whether you wear it in this secret lair, on the way to the mission, and whether you hide your real identity is up to you. Like me, I usually don't bother to disguise myself, so I passed the Heaven-Cleaving Alliance test as Shuedong King, he said. You are so free and easy. Jian Wushuang smiled. He had heard from St. Crimson Rock that members of the Heaven-Cleaving Alliance could hide their identity and make it easier for them to do things. Many people who were high and powerful on the surface had to pay attention to their identity. Many things were not easy for them to do in person. But after going through the Heaven-Cleaving Alliance, they had no scruples. They could plunder and kill at will. Now it seemed that they relied on this special outfit. My identity is the most sensitive, so I definitely can't show my true face. I have to wear this gray robe and mask in the future, Jian Wushuang thought to himself. Chapter 2934. Sword Heavenly Marquis. Under the guidance of Shuedong King, Jian Wushuang came to the counter in the center of the hall. A thin elder in a Taoist robe was dozing off. Elder Chiu, don't sleep, Shuedong King shouted. The thin elder in a Taoist robe moved his eyelids slightly, and then opened his eyes. After opening his eyes, he glanced at Jian Wushuang and Shuedong King and asked, "What's the matter?" "This little brother next to me wants to join the Heaven-Cleaving Alliance," Shuedong King said. "Where's the Heaven-Cleaving token?" The thin elder, who Shuedong King referred to as Elder Chiu, reached out his hand. Without hesitation, Jian Wushuang handed over his Heaven-Cleaving token. Elder Chiu glanced at the token and nodded slightly. "What is your name, or what title do you use?" "Title?" Jian Wushuang's expression changed. "Brother Jian, there are only a few people in the Heaven-Cleaving Alliance like me who are willing to show their true faces. Most of them wear gray robes and masks to hide their identities. Naturally, they won't use their real names, so most of them will give themselves a title. If you want to hide your identity in the future, you can also give yourself a title," Shuedong King said. Jian Wushuang immediately fell into deep thought. Title? He still remembered that when he was young, he used to travel around in the Green Fire world under the name of Swordsman. Later, when he came to the 10,000 chaotic worlds, he also became famous as Sword Emperor. Now when it came to the title, Jian Wushuang thought of Sword Emperor. But soon he shook his head. Sword Emperor was a very common title in the beginning divine realm. Many experts in the beginning divine realm were called Swordsman, Sword Emperor, and Sword Saint. Naturally, Sword Emperor was a good title. Jian Wushuang thought of a more special title. After pondering for a moment, Jian Wushuang finally thought of a title. "I'll call you Sword Heavenly Marquis." "Sword Heavenly Marquis?" Shuedong King looked over and nodded. "It's a very domineering title." Jian Wushuang smiled slightly. Sword Heavenly Marquis was the first name that came to his mind. It was the place where he was born, but unfortunately, the Sword Heavenly Marquis mansion no longer existed after so many years. Elder Chiu, who was standing in front of the counter, waved his hand and left the words Sword Heavenly Marquis on the Heaven-Cleaving token. "Leave your communication token here. I'll inform you when the test is ready," Elder Chiu said. Jian Wushuang handed his message token to the elder and asked, "How long will it take?" "The test of the Heaven-Cleaving Alliance will be held every once in a while. Each time, dozens of experts from hundreds of nests will gather to take part in the test. It has been 9 years since the last test, and there is less than a year left. You can stay here and wait, or you can leave on your own. When the test is over, you can come back," the elder said. "It's only been a year. I'll just wait here." Jian Wushuang smiled and looked at Shuedong King. "Shuedong King, thank you so much. Don't worry, it's rare to see a talent that I admire. Anyway, I have nothing to do these days, so I'll stay here with you. I'll also take a look at some of the missions that have been released recently. Shui Dongqing smiled. Then he looked at the elder and said, Old man, show me some of the new missions that have been released recently in the nearby territories. The elder glanced at Shui Dongqing and casually threw a jade slip over. Here is the mission list. Take a look for yourself. Shui Dongqing took the jade slip and found a seat beside Jian Wushuang. Brother Jian, it won't be long before you become a member of the Heaven-Cleaving Alliance. Your strength is no less than mine. You can take a look at the mission list. Shui Dongqing also put the jade slip in front of Jian Wushuang. Jian Wushuang nodded slightly, and the two began to examine the jade slip together. 1-star ordinary task. Kill a peak divine master. Task location Blood Smoke Cave. Task reward 400,000 sacred elixirs, plus a 3rd-grade offensive holy treasure. 1-star ordinary task. Protect an Earth Divine Master for 100 years. Task location Luo Something Realm. Mission reward 600,000 sacred elixirs. 3-star ordinary mission. Kill the 3 Shadow Saints. Mission reward 2 million sacred elixirs, 2 superior 3rd-grade offensive holy treasures, and 1 superior protective armor holy treasure. Jian Wushuang took a casual glance at the first 3 missions, but he was shocked by them. There were many special missions in the Jade Slip. Each mission only had a simple introduction, but there was no detailed process or background. But generally, the rewards for these missions were extremely high. Just killing a peak Great Divine Master can get me 400,000 sacred elixirs and a 3rd-grade offensive holy treasure. Isn't the reward too high? Or is it that this peak Great Divine Master is unusual and difficult to kill? Jian Wushuang could not help but ask. No, if I'm not wrong, that peak Great Divine Master's strength is average. With our strength, we can kill him easily. The reason why the mission is still here and the reward is so high should be the location of the mission, which is the Blood Smoke Cave, Shui Dongqing said. Is there anything special about the Blood Smoke Cave? Jian Wushuang asked. Sword Heavenly Marquis, you don't come from the surrounding territories, so you don't know anything about it. Shui Dongqing had already changed the way he addressed Jian Wushuang. Previously, he had always called Jian Wushuang Brother Jian, which made Jian Wushuang feel very strange. Therefore, he asked Shui Dongqing to directly call him Sword Heavenly Marquis. The Blood Smoke Cave is a famous danger zone in the surrounding area. In this danger zone, let alone divine masters, even ordinary immortal saints have a certain chance of dying, while ordinary invincible divine masters have at least a 70% chance of dying. Shui Dongqing said in a deep voice. There is a 70% chance of dying. Those invincible divine masters who have already become members of the Heaven-Cleaving Alliance will definitely not take the risk. And most of the immortal saints would not risk breaking into the Blood Smoke Cave for a mere 400,000 sacred elixirs. Therefore, the reward for this mission is not high but too low. If the person who issued the mission can increase the reward to 600,000 or 700,000 sacred elixirs, then the invincible divine master or the immortal saint should go and take the risk. Is that so? Jian Wushuang understood, but then he asked, since the Blood Smoke Cave is so dangerous, how did the peak divine master who was on the mission break in? Is he still alive? Who knows? In short, although the mission is only 1 star, I'm not interested, Shui Dongqing said. Chapter 2935. 3-star mission. Jian Wushuang raised his eyebrows and continued to read the missions on the Jade Slip. After a short while, he read through the missions briefly. Are all the missions here? So few. Jian Wushuang frowned. There were only about 20 missions on the Jade Slip, which was indeed a small number. These are only the missions in the territory around the nest. We can get there in the shortest time possible. There are more missions from other territories. Elder Chiu also has them. If you don't think there are any suitable missions here, you can go to him. However, it's more troublesome to carry out missions in other territories than in the territory around the nest, Shui Dongqing said. Jian Wushuang nodded slightly. In addition, the members of the Heaven-Cleaving Alliance are divided into different levels: ordinary Earth level, Heaven level, and Emperor level. Naturally, the missions taken by the members of different levels are different. For example, I'm still an ordinary member of the Heaven-Cleaving Alliance, so I can only take ordinary missions, but am not qualified to take Earth-level missions. Missions of different levels can be divided into 1 to 3 stars according to their difficulty. The 1-star mission you mentioned to kill the Peak Divine Master in the Blood Smoke Cave is a 1-star mission. Under normal circumstances, the more difficult the mission is, the higher the reward will be, said Shui Dongqing. Jian Wushuang understood. Sword Heavenly Marquis looked carefully. Do you think any of these tasks are suitable for you? Shui Dongqing looked over. I haven't passed the assessment of the Heaven-Cleaving Alliance yet. I'm not even an official member of the Heaven-Cleaving Alliance. It's useless to look at these tasks, Jian Wushuang said with a smile. How is it useless? With your strength, it should be easy for you to pass the assessment, as long as you're not too unlucky. After you pass the assessment, you can accept these ordinary tasks. First, see if there are any tasks that you think you can accept. Then let's join hands to do a job, Shui Dongqing said expectantly. Work together? Can we work together to complete these tasks? Jian Wushuang asked in surprise. Of course. Shui Dongqing grinned. We can work together to complete any task in the Heaven-Cleaving Alliance, but the reward will not change. We need to distribute it ourselves. In addition, the tasks that we work together to complete are not counted in the promotion task. Promotion mission? Jian Wushuang looked puzzled. Promotion missions are missions that need to be completed to advance from one level to another. For example, if an ordinary member wants to advance to an Earth-level member, in addition to his own strength, he has to complete 3 3-star ordinary missions alone. If the same Earth-level member wants to become a Heaven-level member, he has to complete 3 3-star Earth-level missions alone, Shui Dongqing said. Previously, I was just an invincible supreme divinity, so I could only accept some 1-star ordinary missions. At the very most, I could only accept 2-star ordinary missions. As for 3-star missions, I've never tried them before. Now that I've broken through to the level of a saint, my strength has skyrocketed, and I've completely reached the level of an Earth-rank member. However, although my strength has reached that level, I haven't completed the promotion mission yet. In addition, I didn't accept a 3-star mission before, so I didn't know how difficult it was. So I wasn't sure at first. The best way is to join hands with others to try to complete a 3-star mission. Naturally, you are my best candidate. After saying that, Shui Dongqing looked at Jian Wushuang with some expectation. I see. Jian Wushuang nodded silently. Shui Dongqing had never tried a 3-star mission, so it was normal for him to be cautious. If I pass the test in a year, I can try to complete a 3-star mission with you, Jian Wushuang said. Haha, that's great. Shui Dongqing was delighted, and immediately began to explore the Jade Slip. There are only 2 3-star normal missions in our territory. Of these 2 missions, although this one looks easier, it's too troublesome. It'll take at least 100 years to complete. Moreover, the reward isn't that great. It's just a bare one. 5 million sacred elixirs. If we split it between the 2 of us, there won't be much. Let's go with this one. It seems to be a good mission. Jian Wushuang immediately looked at the mission that Shui Dongqing was pointing at. The 3-star mission mentioned by Shui Dongqing was to kill the 3rd Saint Shadows. The reward was 2 million Saint Elixirs, 2 superior 3rd-grade offensive holy treasures, and 1 superior protective armor holy treasure. It's to kill 3 immortal saints. Shui Dongqing, are you confident? Jian Wushuang asked casually. Well, I don't know, but I've heard of the 3 shadow saints. Shui Dongqing's face darkened. The 3 shadow saints are in the territory we're in, and they have occupied a large territory a long time ago. However, they are evil. After they occupied that territory, they completely turned it into their paradise. Countless cultivators in the entire territory submit to them and live like slaves. I heard that he had already closed the space passage between the realm and the outer realm. He also deployed various means around the realm and had an army guarding it. Unless the cultivators in that realm can cultivate to the immortal saint level, it's impossible for them to escape from that realm. Hearing this, Jian Wushuang's eyes turned slightly cold. In other words, the three of them enslaved a realm? Jian Wushuang asked in a low voice. Yes, countless cultivators in that realm are like slaves. They don't have any freedom. They were even born to make fun of the three shadow saints. A long time ago, I heard about the three shadow saints. Unfortunately, I was only a divine master at that time, so I couldn't deal with them. But now, a cold light flashed in Shui Dongqing's eyes. Jian Wushuang's face was also cold. He could tell that what Shui Dongqing said was true. Otherwise, the mission to kill the three shadow saints would not have appeared in the Heaven-Cleaving Alliance. He had heard from the Bone Emperor that the Heaven-Cleaving Alliance would not easily kill some experts. However, if this expert was on the mission of the Heaven-Cleaving Alliance, there were only three possibilities. First, this expert had provoked the Heaven-Cleaving Alliance. Second, someone had given an extremely generous reward and price. Third, this person deserved to die. The three shadow saints clearly belonged to that person who deserved to die. Chapter 2936, Gathering Sword Heavenly Marquis. What do you think of this task? Do you want to do it? Shui Dongqing looked over. If I pass the test in a year, I will complete this task with you, Jian Wushuang said. Haha, that's great. Shui Dongqing immediately smiled. Although the three shadow saints are not very strong individually, they stay together all year round and have a tacit understanding. If the three of them really work together, I, a top false saint, am not absolutely sure that I can kill them. But if I work together with you, I am absolutely sure. Jian Wushuang just smiled faintly. Then the two of them waited quietly. Although they said they were waiting, in fact, Jian Wushuang and Shui Dongqing had a casual exchange for a while before they went to cultivate. He was extremely talented. Although the year was short, he could still make some progress. In the blink of an eye, a year passed. Sword Heavenly Marquis, come with me, the elder called Jian Wushuang. Brother, I wish you good luck. I'll wait for your triumphant return here, Shui Dongqing said with a laugh. Jian Wushuang followed Elder Qiu toward the inner hall. Soon, Jian Wushuang arrived in front of a huge wormhole. What's this? Jian Wushuang looked at the wormhole in front of him in confusion. On the other side of the wormhole is the gathering point. Every 10 years, nearly 100 nests, or nearly 100 territories, will be located there. Take your heaven-cleaving token and go there directly. When you get there, someone will tell you what to do, Elder Qiu said. Jian Wushuang nodded slightly. Without any hesitation, he stepped into the wormhole in front of him. With a flash of light, Jian Wushuang appeared on the top of a towering mountain. Around the top of the mountain was an endless sea, with waves constantly sweeping over. When Jian Wushuang arrived, there were already many people gathered in the open space on the top of the mountain. At a glance, there were nearly 20 people. These people were either standing or sitting alone. No one spoke. When Jian Wushuang appeared, a few people glanced at him. Another one. His aura is very unique. I can't tell his specific realm. Is he the immortal saint? Some people muttered in their hearts, but they only muttered a few words. Jian Wushuang's appearance did not attract the attention of others. Jian Wushuang looked around at the people around him and said, Didn't Elder Qiu say that nearly 100 people from the surrounding lairs are gathered here? Why are there only so few people? Jian Wushuang was surprised, but he soon understood. The Heaven-Cleaving Alliance's assessment was held once every 10 years. 10 years was very short for ordinary divine masters, not to mention immortal saints. Although the assessment was conducted in nearly 100 nests at the same time, most nests would not have people take the assessment for 10 years. Therefore, there were at most 20 to 30 people taking the assessment each time. Among the nearly 20 people in front of him, divine masters accounted for more than half of them. As for the immortal saint, there were only 4 people on the field. It seems that the assessment is conducted by divine masters and the immortal saint at the same time. I wonder what the content of the assessment is. Jian Wushuang muttered. He did not take the initiative to talk to them. Instead, he found a place to sit down casually. Jian Wushuang waited here for about 2 hours. There were more than 30 people gathered on the top of the mountain, but there were only 5 immortal saints. At this time, whoosh! An old man with a goatee suddenly appeared in the void above the top of the mountain. The old man with the goatee had a pair of narrow and strange eyes with a faint cold luster. He looked down at the people below. Are all the participants here? The old man with the goatee said coldly. 5 immortal saints and 27 reverends. Thanks. I hope that half of them will survive after this mission. Hearing this, the 27 reverends and the 5 immortal saints below trembled. All of them were quite powerful. For example, the 27 reverends were all unrivaled reverends. There were many unrivaled reverends who had reached the 2nd stage, or even the 3rd stage. They had great confidence in their own strength. It was because of this that they dared to participate in the Heaven Cleaving Alliance's assessment. However, when the goateed old man saw them, he directly said that it was already good enough for half of them to survive. This instantly caused a trace of pressure to appear at the bottom of their hearts. Don't be nervous. Although there will be a large number of people who fail the Heaven Cleaving Alliance's assessment, as long as you are strong enough and careful enough, surviving is not a problem. The goateed old man gave a strange smile. Sir, may I ask what the content of the assessment is? When will we start the assessment? A deep voice sounded. The one who spoke was one of the 5 immortal saints. Don't be anxious. The assessment hasn't started yet. When it really starts, I will naturally tell you the content. As for now, let's wait for a while. There is still a special person who hasn't arrived yet. The goateed elder said. Special person? The expressions of the people who came to participate in the test all changed. Then they quietly waited. After waiting for another hour, finally, a ray of light flashed. Then a fiery figure appeared in front of everyone's eyes. Everyone immediately looked over. The person who came was over 2 meters tall and graceful. Obviously it was a woman. However, the woman was wearing the same gray robe as the members of the Heaven Cleaving Alliance. She also wore the same gray mask. Let me introduce you. This is the heaven-ranked member of the Heaven Cleaving Alliance, Yao Yu. The old man with the goatee said with a smile. Yao Yu? Heaven-ranked member? The people below were shocked. They looked at the masked woman with respect. The members of the Heaven Cleaving Alliance were far from each other, and there was a huge difference in strength. The ordinary members were mostly composed of divine masters, and some immortal saints, who had just broken through from divine masters, and had not had the time to complete the promotion mission. For example, Shuedong King was an immortal saint who had not had the time to complete the promotion mission. He was only an ordinary member now. The weakest Earth-level member should be a top false saint, while most of them had already reached the true saint level, or even a rank 2 true saint. For example, the overlord of the 9 realms of the Golden Crow, Bone Emperor, was supreme in the 9 realms of the Golden Crow. Saint Hong of the Dragon Phoenix Pavilion was also a rank 1 true saint, but he was still weaker than Bone Emperor. Therefore, Jian Wushuang estimated that Bone Emperor should be a rank 2 true saint, but Bone Emperor was only an Earth-level member. Generally, the weakest Heaven-level member was a rank 2 true saint, and the stronger one was a rank 4 or 5 true saint. Chapter 2937. Black Dragon Mountain. Since this demonic jade was a Heaven-rank member, she was at least a powerful 2nd-rank true saint, or even more. Faced with such an expert, the invincible reverends below, and the 5 immortal saints, who had not even reached the true saint level naturally, had to maintain their due respect. This test is quite special. When the time comes, we will need Lord Yao Ye's help, the goateed elder said humbly. Under the mask, Yao Ye's cold voice sounded. The goateed elder smiled and waved his hand. A spatial tunnel immediately appeared in the void beside him. Let's go. Let's head to the test site. The goateed elder smiled, and was the first to rush into the spatial tunnel. Yao Yu, the 5 immortal saints, and the 27 reverends immediately followed. There was a special territory in the endless territories. This territory was made up of 6 different realms of different sizes. These 6 realms had countless cultivators, and these cultivators all knew one name, Black Dragon Mountain. These 6 realms were ruled by Black Dragon Mountain. In the center of these 6 realms was a floating land. This land was not very vast, and this was the base of Black Dragon Mountain, which was also the sacred land of Black Dragon Mountain mentioned by the cultivators in the 6 realms. However, at this moment, the entire sacred land of Black Dragon Mountain was covered with a layer of barrier. This layer of the barrier was extremely powerful and was not something that ordinary cultivators could break. In the center of the barrier, on a towering black mountain, there were countless pavilions and palaces. In the center of the towering Great Hall, many experts of the highest level of Black Dragon Mountain gathered together. These experts' expressions were extremely gloomy. It was extremely ugly. "Patriarch, is there really nothing we can do?" A voice suddenly sounded. Everyone's eyes were all focused on an old man with white hair, sitting on the throne in the center. The old man frowned. After a while he sighed. "I've already used all my connections and tried to contact the people of the Heaven-Cleaving Alliance. Unfortunately, the Heaven-Cleaving Alliance didn't pay any attention to it." "Ignored? How is that possible? Are they really not going to give us a chance?" The expressions of the experts present changed. "The Heaven-Cleaving Alliance is too strong, too detached." The weathered elder shook his head. "Compared to the high and mighty Heaven-Cleaving Alliance, my Black Dragon Mountain is nothing. It's just an ant, not even comparable to an ant. But to my Black Dragon Mountain, the Heaven-Cleaving Alliance is a tall mountain and a giant statue. When did you see a giant statue that would be willing to sit down and talk to an ant? We have no choice. This time our Black Dragon Mountain is doomed. We have no chance at all. Who asked us to be so blind to provoke the Heaven-Cleaving Alliance?" "Patriarch, the reason why our Black Dragon Mountain provoked the Heaven-Cleaving Alliance this time was purely an accident. It was not intentional. The Heaven-Cleaving Alliance should also know this. How could they still do this?" Someone said unwillingly. "It was an accident. The Heaven-Cleaving Alliance also knows this. However, even if it was an accident, the high and mighty Heaven-Cleaving Alliance wouldn't allow it. It's like a beggar accidentally bumping into an emperor. Although it was an unintentional act, it has already offended the emperor's majesty. For the sake of his majesty, the emperor must also punish him." The aged elder sighed softly. Hearing this, the experts of the Black Dragon Mountain turned pale. Despair rose in the hearts of most of them. In front of the Heaven-Cleaving Alliance, a mere Black Dragon Mountain was indeed too weak. Now that the Heaven-Cleaving Alliance has completely sealed off our Black Dragon Mountain, none of the cultivators of our Black Dragon Mountain can escape. Could it be that the Heaven-Cleaving Alliance wants to completely wipe out our Black Dragon Mountain? An immortal saint of the Black Dragon Mountain said in a low voice. "It shouldn't be to the extent of completely wiping out." The aged old man shook his head. "Our Black Dragon Mountain has only inadvertently provoked the Heaven-Cleaving Alliance. The Heaven-Cleaving Alliance will descend and punish us. It might directly destroy our Black Dragon Mountain, but it definitely won't be too extreme. Instead, it will leave a certain amount of life force. Otherwise, with the Heaven-Cleaving Alliance's methods, after completely sealing off our Black Dragon Mountain, they will immediately take action and kill us all." However, several days have already passed, but other than that enchantment, the Heaven-Cleaving Alliance hasn't made a single move. Obviously, the Heaven-Cleaving Alliance doesn't have the intention to completely wipe us out. Then what does the Heaven-Cleaving Alliance want to do? The surrounding people looked over. "Who knows, just wait." The weathered elder sighed softly, but his heart was filled with helplessness. Black Dragon Mountain, in the void within the barrier. Along with the appearance of a spatial tunnel, the many experts participating in this assessment, as well as the goateed elder and the Heaven Grade member Shuiyu, all appeared in this void. After appearing, everyone looked around blankly. "Follow me." The goateed elder waved his hand, and everyone immediately followed him forward. After rushing forward, it took them only half a day to arrive in front of a towering black mountain. Jian Wushuang and the others could clearly see the various buildings on the Black Dragon Mountain and the aura of cultivators coming from the buildings. Some of the hidden auras were extremely powerful, enough to make invincible divine masters and immortal saints treat them seriously. "This is the place." The goateed elder smiled and then looked at Shuiyu. "Master Shuiyu, please." Shuiyu, who was 2 meters tall and wearing a mask, nodded slightly and walked toward the Black Dragon Mountain in front of her. A moment later, a terrifying aura suddenly erupted from Shui Ye's body. As soon as this aura erupted, the pupils of the unrivaled reverent gods and the 5 immortal saints who were participating in the assessment shrank. So powerful. This aura is at least a 3rd-level true saint. It might even be a peak existence among 3rd-level true saints. This blood jade is too strong. Everyone exclaimed in shock, but Blood Jade had already attacked. Her technique was very casual. She did not even take out her divine weapon. She only used one hand to slash with her finger. But this slash contained endless power. A blade light that blotted out the sky swept out at a terrifying speed. Wherever the blade light went, everything was torn apart. In the end, this blade light swept onto the towering Black Dragon Mountain. This towering Black Dragon Mountain was instantly cut in half by this blade light from above. The entire mountain fell to the sides. Numerous experts from the Black Dragon Mountain within the mountain were shocked and furious as they rushed forward. Chapter 2938. The Pursuit. Are the people from the Heaven-Cleaving Alliance here? Many high-level experts from the Black Dragon Mountain had already gathered in the void, and the one leading them was the Weathered Elder. The Weathered Elder and the immortal saints behind him also noticed Shui Ye's existence. Seeing the terrifying aura that Shui Yu emitted, their bodies and hearts could not help but tremble. Shui Yu glanced at the vicissitudes of life Elder and the others with her cold eyes. Then whoosh! She directly rushed out like a stream of light. You guys retreat quickly. The vicissitudes of life Elder let out a roar, and a powerful aura immediately emerged from his body. This aura had also reached the true saint realm, and it was much stronger than that of Saint Hong, who had fought Jian Wushuang head-on. It should have reached the peak of the first-ranked true saint realm. He immediately displayed his strongest strength in an attempt to block Shui Yu. However, after coming into contact with Shui Yu, in just one exchange, the saber light formed by Shui Ye's single hand directly cut off the old man's arm. Then, he struck out with his single hand. Before the old man could even react, his divine body was destroyed. Buzz buzz buzz. Divine power began to gather in the sky. The Weathered Elder controlled the immortal body. After his divine body collapsed, he immediately relied on his divine power to rebuild his divine body. When Shui Yu saw this, she did not stop him. However, when the Weathered Elder's divine body was full, she struck out with her saber again. Bang! The Weathered Elder's divine body collapsed again, and then it was rebuilt again. This was repeated 5 times. Heaven-Cleaving Alliance, I have no regrets in dying. Please give me a chance to live. After the old man died hysterically, his body collapsed for the 6th time. However, after this collapse, he could not reassemble again. Instead he died. Is he dead? A true saint with an immortal body was killed just like that? A heaven-grade member of the Heaven-Cleaving Alliance is too terrifying. The 5 immortal saints and 27 divine masters, who had come to participate in the assessment, widened their eyes in shock. The Weathered Elder was a true saint with an immortal body. However, after this battle, the Weathered Elder had no room to fight back. Even if he had an immortal body, he was still killed by Shui Yu. They were shocked by Shui Ye's strength. At the same time, they understood that having an immortal body did not mean that he was immortal. The immortal body is indeed sufficient, but it requires a lot of divine power to regenerate. The Elder's divine power was only enough for him to regenerate 5 times. After that he was killed by Shui Yu. Jian Wushuang sighed. However, he also understood that the vicissitudes of life had killed the old man so easily, because he did not want to escape. He had no chance to escape. However, if it were any other true saint, they would immediately try to escape after knowing that they were no match for Shui Yu. If he could regenerate his divine body 5 times, he would have 5 chances to escape. The Weathered Elder, who was also the ancestor of the Black Dragon Mountain, was killed by Shui Yu. This scene happened in front of the experts of the Black Dragon Mountain. When the experts of the Black Dragon Mountain saw this, they were not only furious but also terrified. Yes, even their ancestor was killed so easily, let alone them. They did not know what they were going to face. But at this moment, Shui Yu, who had killed the Elder, did not continue to attack the experts of Black Dragon Mountain. Instead, he turned around and returned to the side of the goateed elder. Master Shuiyu, thank you for your trouble. The goateed elder said gratefully. Yes. Shuiyu nodded slightly, turned around and left. He left. Master Shuiyu actually left? The people who came to participate in the assessment were baffled. Only Jian Wushuang narrowed his eyes and vaguely understood the content of the assessment. At this time, the goateed elder walked toward the experts of Black Dragon Mountain. He came to the experts of Black Dragon Mountain and smiled faintly. Everyone of Black Dragon Mountain, listen up. After today, Black Dragon Mountain will no longer exist. This is the punishment for your Black Dragon Mountain, provoking the Heaven-Cleaving Alliance. The figures of the experts from the Black Dragon Mountain trembled, but they were helpless. Although the Black Dragon Mountain will completely disappear, the cultivators from the Black Dragon Mountain, other than the ancestor of the Black Dragon Mountain, who was killed just now, have a chance to survive. Hearing these words, the experts from the Black Dragon Mountain raised their heads in unison. Numerous gazes were fixed on the goateed old man. The goateed elder smiled cunningly and said, "What you need to do is very simple. You need to do your best to escape." Escape? The experts of the Black Dragon Mountain were stunned. The goateed elder continued, "The land where the Black Dragon Mountain is located can be considered a relatively small continent. Even an immortal saint would need 2 to 3 days to cross this land. I can give you 1 day to escape first. You can escape to this land. You can hide anywhere except underground. After 1 day, the immortal saints and the invincible reverends behind me will frantically search for and kill them. This search and pursuit will last for 10 days. After 10 days, our people will stop, and those who survive will be able to leave safely." The experts from Black Dragon Mountain looked at each other. They finally understood the Heaven-Cleaving Alliance's purpose. It was obvious that the Heaven-Cleaving Alliance treated them as a training mission. They had to survive for 10 days in the pursuit of these experts from the Heaven-Cleaving Alliance. 10 days was not a long time, but it was not short either. Fortunately, as long as we can escape this pursuit, the Heaven-Cleaving Alliance will show mercy. Humph, this land is so big, and the Heaven-Cleaving Alliance only has so few people. It's not easy to find us. We thought we were going to die, but now it seems that our chances of survival are still very high. Many experts in Black Dragon Mountain were whispering, "Sir." Black Dragon Mountain thought the black-haired man made a deep voice. The aura of the black-haired man was as strong as that of Shuedong King, who had fought with Jian Wushuang. Apparently, he was also a top false saint. During the 10 days of pursuit, if the experts of Black Dragon Mountain meet the Heaven-Cleaving Alliance, they will fight. But if they are killed by us during the battle, haha, you don't have to worry about this. These little fellows behind me can only be considered as members of the Heaven-Cleaving Alliance after they pass the test. They are not yet members of the Heaven-Cleaving Alliance, the goateed elder said with a strange smile. Chapter 2939. List of names. I've already said that all you have to do is to stay alive in this Black Dragon Mountain for 10 days. There are no other restrictions. You can use whatever means you have. As long as you have enough strength, let alone killing these people behind me during the fierce battle. You can even treat them as prey and hunt them down. The goateed old man said with a smile. Hearing this, the experts of the Black Dragon Mountain felt relieved, especially the powerful immortal saints of the Black Dragon Mountain. However, there is one thing. No one is allowed to escape underground. This is the only rule. The goateed elder said coldly. Don't take any chances. Right now, the Black Dragon Mountain is completely within the enchantment of our Heaven-Cleaving Alliance. Your every move is monitored by our Heaven-Cleaving Alliance. If anyone dares to escape underground, our Heaven-Cleaving Alliance will immediately execute them. The people of Black Dragon Mountain looked at each other and nodded secretly. This pursuit was obviously a test. Moreover, the Heaven-Cleaving Alliance had indeed given them a great chance of survival. And if they were to escape underground again, although this land was not big, there were too many places to hide if they were to count underground. If a cultivator deliberately hid in the deepest part of the underground, it would be much more difficult to search. The Heaven-Cleaving Alliance knew this, which was why they set the rule that they were not allowed to hide underground. Well, the opportunity has been given to you. Now it's up to you to seize it. Try your best to escape in a day. The goateed elder waved his hand. The densely packed experts of Black Dragon Mountain immediately turned to the East God. They saw a large number of figures rushing in all directions at the fastest speed. In a moment, they had completely disappeared in front of Jian Wushuang and the others who were participating in the assessment. The 5 immortal saints and 27 divine masters, who were participating in the assessment, stood there with strange expressions on their faces. Although the goateed elder did not tell them about the contents of the assessment, they had roughly understood it through the conversation between the goateed elder and the experts from Black Dragon Mountain. This assessment was nothing more than a large-scale hunt, and whether they could pass the assessment should be determined by the quality and number of experts they killed from the Black Dragon Mountain. At this time, the goateed old man had already turned around. At the same time, he waved his sleeve and immediately threw jade slips at everyone present. This is the list of experts from the Black Dragon Mountain. Other than the patriarch of the Black Dragon Mountain, who has already been killed by Lord Yaoyu, more than 90% of the others are currently on this land. And according to their strength, the Heaven-Slaying Alliance has marked the corresponding points for these experts from the Black Dragon Mountain. Take a careful look. The goateed old man said. Everyone took the jade slip and began to examine it carefully. Sure enough, the jade slip was a list of experts. There were hundreds of experts on the list, all of whom were at least at the Great Divine Master level. As for the Immortal Saint, there were 11 of them on the list. 11 Immortal Saints. Jian Wushuang's pupils constricted. He had just reached the gap. There were indeed 12 Immortal Saints in Black Dragon Mountain. Besides the strongest true saint who had been killed by Yaoyu, there were still 11 left. The 11 Immortal Saints had also spread out. The points for these 11 Immortal Saints were also very high. According to their strength, the weakest Immortal Saint had 10,000 points, while the slightly stronger one had around 20,000 to 30,000 points. In addition, among the 11 Immortal Saints, 2 had reached the level of a peak false saint. They had the highest points, each with 50,000 points. Is this the point to judge whether we can pass the test? Jian Wushuang muttered. The goateed elder spoke again. You should have guessed the content of this test, so I don't need to say anything more. I'll only tell you the standard of passing the test. It's very simple. The Immortal Saint has 50,000 points, while the Divine Master has 10,000 points. Hearing this, the 5 Immortal Saints' pupils could not help but shrink. The reverent gods also had solemn expressions. 50,000 points were not small for those Immortal Saints. After all, killing the weakest Immortal Saint was only 10,000 points. If they wanted to gather 50,000 points, it meant that they had to kill 2 or 3 Immortal Saints from Black Dragon Mountain. But Immortal Saints were not so easy to kill. It was also extremely difficult to gather 10,000 points against 27 Immortal Saints. After all, on this list of experts, other than the 11 Immortal Saints who had more than 10,000 points, the rest of the Immortal Saints did not have very high points. For example, below the Immortal Saint of Black Dragon Mountain, the strongest had 4 invincible Divine Masters. Each of these 4 invincible Divine Masters only had 3,000 points. As for Peak Great Divine Masters, the average Peak Great Divine Masters only had 500 points. Even some extremely powerful Peak Great Divine Masters only had at most 1,000 points. In other words, if these Divine Masters wanted to pass the test, they would have to kill at least a dozen Peak Great Divine Masters of Black Dragon Mountain. It was not difficult for them to kill a Divine Master at the peak of the Black Dragon Mountain with their strength. However, it was not easy for them to pass the test in just 10 days, especially since they had gathered on the land where the Immortal Saint had gathered. I've long heard that the Heaven-Cleaving Alliance's test is extremely harsh. Now it seems that it's true. Jian Wushuang sighed. He only sighed slightly, but he did not feel too much pressure. It was only 10,000 points. It was absolutely not difficult for him. Sir, I wonder how we can determine that we killed the experts of the Black Dragon Mountain after we killed them? A divine master asked. That's simple. The Black Dragon Mountain can be considered a relatively powerful force in endless territories. Every expert under the command of the Black Dragon Mountain has an identity token. This identity token corresponds to their identity. After 10 days have passed and everyone has stopped, I will calculate your respective points based on the identity token you have obtained, the goateed elder said. Hearing this, everyone nodded. Well, I've told you everything I need to tell you. The information on the experts of Black Dragon Mountain is very detailed. Take a look and be fully prepared. You can leave in 1 day, the goateed elder said. Jian Wushuang immediately began to carefully read the information on the experts on the list. Time flew by, and in the blink of an eye, a day had passed. Chapter 2940, Slaughter Time's Up. Let's go, the goateed elder said in a deep voice. The 5 immortal saints, 27 divine masters and Jian Wushuang, who had been waiting in the void for a long time, set off immediately. Everyone spread out and headed in their respective directions. Jian Wushuang also flew straight ahead. This land is not big, and the experts of Black Dragon Mountain can't hide underground. It shouldn't be difficult to find them. 10 days should be enough time. Jian Wushuang smiled. He was also very fast, flying in the direction of the beginning alone. While he was flying, his soul power was also unscrupulously spread. Although his soul level was not high, it was extremely tough. His soul power was also very vast and covered a wide area. After 4 hours of unscrupulous soul searching, he had already sensed the presence of several experts in a dense forest. Hiding in the dense forest and deliberately concealing your aura. Do you think I can't find you? Jian Wushuang stood in the void above the dense forest and looked down with a mocking smile. Come out. A magnificent voice came out of Jian Wushuang's mouth and reverberated throughout the entire dense forest. In the dense forest, the expressions of the experts from Black Dragon Mountain, who were carefully hiding there, changed. Whoosh, 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 whoosh. 4 figures rose up at the same time and appeared in front of Jian Wushuang. He was discovered so quickly. This kid's perceptive ability is quite strong. I heard from the elders that the divine masters who dared to participate in the Heaven-Cleaving Alliance's assessment are all top-notch divine masters, and even invincible divine masters. It's not strange that their perceptive ability is strong. The 4 experts from Black Dragon Mountain stared at Jian Wushuang with cold eyes. 2 peak divine masters and 2 advanced divine masters are working together? Jian Wushuang raised his eyebrows, but he was not surprised. The goateed elder said that the experts from Black Dragon Mountain only needed to survive for 10 days, and they could use any other means. Even if they joined hands, it was not against the rules. Boy, I know you must be strong since you dared to participate in the assessment of the Heaven-Cleaving Alliance. But now that the 4 of us have joined hands, we are not afraid of you at all. If you know what's good for you, you'd better leave now, or else. A purple-haired demonic youth among the 4 said. But he had not finished his words. Shut up, Jian Wushuang shouted in a low voice and flew out. Like a bolt of lightning, Jian Wushuang appeared in front of the 4. Be careful, kill him. The 4 great divine masters of the Heaven-Cleaving Alliance looked cold. 2 of them had killing intent in their eyes, and their divine power burst out instantly. They were only great divine masters. They had never heard of the Heaven-Cleaving Alliance before. It was only because the Heaven-Cleaving Alliance had used a barrier to completely seal them that they knew of the existence of the Heaven-Cleaving Alliance. As for some of the matters of the Heaven-Cleaving Alliance, they had also heard about it from some elders of the Black Dragon Mountain who were at the level of immortal saints. But they did not know much. They only knew that the divine masters who dared to participate in the Heaven-Cleaving Alliance's assessment were very strong, but they did not know how strong they were. Now they thought that the 4 great divine masters would be able to defeat Jian Wushuang. But in the end, buzz! A demonic sword light flashed past. The 4 great divine masters did not even see how Jian Wushuang attacked, but the sword light had already passed them. The 4 of them widened their eyes and opened their mouths, but their vitality had been completely cut off. 2 peak Great Divine Masters and 2 advanced Great Divine Masters didn't run away when they saw me. Jian Wushuang looked at the 4 corpses and shook his head with a smile. Among the 27 Divine Masters who had come to participate in the assessment, 99% of them were invincible Divine Masters. Any one of them was enough to wipe out a group of peak Great Divine Masters. In front of an invincible Divine Master, the 4 of them were nothing but butchered. They would be slaughtered. What was laughable was that the 4 of them not only did not run away, but also wanted to defeat him. Whoosh! Jian Wushuang waved his hand and took away their interspatial rings. In their interspatial rings, Jian Wushuang also found their identity tokens. By comparing the identities on the identity tokens with the list given by the goateed elder, Jian Wushuang soon learned their identities and knew the points he could get. The 2 ordinary Divine Masters are only worth 500 points, and the 2 advanced Divine Masters are even weaker. One of them is only worth 100 points. I can only get 1,200 points from the 4 of them. Jian Wushuang smiled bitterly. 1,200 points were still far from the 10,000 points he could get from the assessment. Let's continue. Jian Wushuang continued to move forward and began to kill. In Black Dragon Mountain, the killing had already begun. The experts on the list were scattered in every corner of Black Dragon Mountain. Some of them were still working together. The 5 Immortal Saints and 27 Divine Masters, who participated in the assessment, were frantically searching for the experts of Black Dragon Mountain and trying to kill them. The experts of Black Dragon Mountain were only trying to survive, while the participants were trying to get more points. For their own purposes, a bloody storm had begun on this land. All kinds of battles were happening on this land. In a flash, 2 days had passed. On a vast and empty land. Kill him! With a fierce shout, 5 figures, namely 5 peak Divine Masters, turned into 5 streams of light and attacked Jian Wushuang at an incredible speed. These 5 peak Divine Masters were all extraordinary in strength, and there were even 2 peak Divine Masters who had 1,000 points. If the 5 of them worked together and met an ordinary invincible Divine Master, they could really fight. However, the one they met was Jian Wushuang. Jian Wushuang's figure was strange and ethereal. He moved freely in the void, bringing with him the power of endless space-time rules. The 5 peak Divine Masters who were surrounding him could not capture his real body. Without any warning, he appeared behind a peak Divine Master and slashed out with his Blood Mountain sword. The peak Divine Master did not have time to react before his head was cut off by Jian Wushuang. Then, Jian Wushuang's figure flashed 4 times in a row. Jian Wushuang also slashed out 4 times in a row, each of which chopped off someone's head. In the blink of an eye, the 5 Great Divine Masters were all killed. Chapter 2941. Hunters and Prey, another 5. This is the 12th Black Dragon Mountain expert I've killed. Jian Wushuang looked at the 5 corpses in front of him with a cold smile. In 2 days, he had encountered 3 groups of Black Dragon Mountain experts. These 3 groups were made up of Divine Masters, and they were all killed by Jian Wushuang. Jian Wushuang had killed 12 experts from Black Dragon Mountain, and he had gained more than 5,000 points. There are less than half of the 10,000 points left, Jian Wushuang said with a smile. With his strength, killing these Divine Masters was a slaughter. However, no matter how many of them there was no room for resistance. At this speed, he could reach the requirement of 10,000 points in 2 days at most. But at this moment, whoosh! A figure suddenly rushed over from the distance and stopped in front of Jian Wushuang. Jian Wushuang immediately looked over. It was a hunchbacked old man. The hunchbacked old man looked pale and weak, but his eyes were full of vigor. When the hunchbacked old man arrived, he immediately saw 5 corpses floating in the void in front of him. The hunchbacked old man's eyes immediately shrank. It's him. Jian Wushuang also looked at the hunchbacked old man. Although he did not know the name of the hunchbacked old man, he still had an impression of him. There were 27 Divine Masters participating in the assessment, but there were only 5 Immortal Saints. The pale-faced hunchbacked old man was one of the 5 immortal saints. Sir, what's the matter? Jian Wushuang asked. Did you kill those 5? The hunchbacked elder pointed at the 5 corpses and asked. Yes. Jian Wushuang nodded. Judging from the residual aura of those 5 people, they are all at the peak Divine Master realm, and are not weak. After you killed them, you should have gained a lot of points, right? The hunchbacked elder licked his lips. Yes, I got a lot of points. Including what I got before. It should be more than 5,000 points, Jian Wushuang said with a smile. 5,000 points. The hunchbacked old man's eyes immediately lit up. He was a genuine immortal saint, but his strength was not very strong. That was why he came to participate in the assessment of the Heaven-Cleaving Alliance. To a large extent, he was also here to try his luck. And for this assessment mission, as an immortal saint, you have to get 50,000 points to pass. 50,000 points, but not a small number. The fastest and best way is to find the Black Dragon Mountain Immortal Saint. Think of a way to kill 2 or 3. But he did not have the information to kill the Immortal Saint of Black Dragon Mountain. So he could only set his eyes on the Great Divine Master level of Black Dragon Mountain. In addition, there was also the Invincible Divine Master level, who participated in the assessment. Plunder. Yes, the hunchbacked elder had already thought of plundering. In any case, the goateed elder had said that there were no rules in this assessment, and that any means could be used, including mutual plundering and killing. Even if the hunchbacked elder killed Jian Wushuang now, it was not against the rules to take the identity tokens that represented points from Jian Wushuang. Boy, give me all the identity tokens you've got, and I'll let you live. Otherwise, the hunchbacked elder's eyes turned cold. Otherwise what? Jian Wushuang smiled. I've long seen that you have bad intentions. I do have no less than 5,000 points. If you want them, just come and take them. I don't know if you have the strength. You're courting death. The hunchbacked elder was furious, and the immortal saint's aura rose instantly. A terrifying pressure came directly toward Jian Wushuang. At the same time, the hunchbacked elder immediately moved. His eyes were full of killing intent, and he was already charging toward Jian Wushuang. Haha, it's you who's courting death. Jian Wushuang was not afraid at all. He rushed forward to meet the hunchbacked elder. You're just a divine master. How dare you fight me head-on? The hunchbacked elder laughed disdainfully. A dark long spear appeared in his hand. This dark long spear was covered with mysterious dark airflow. Under the hunchbacked elder's control, with a swoosh, it turned into a bolt of sharp black lightning and burst out. Jian Wushuang also brandished his Blood Mountain sword. With a casual wave of the Blood Mountain sword, an invisible sword essence, and even a hazy sword shadow burst out. Clang! The two collided. Under the impact of the terrifying power, the hunchbacked elder's dark spear was knocked aside. The Blood Mountain sword continued to sweep toward the hunchbacked elder's head. How is this possible? A divine master's power can actually suppress the immortal saint. The hunchbacked elder was shocked and immediately retreated backward. At the same time, layers of dark airflow condensed in front of him, trying to block Jian Wushuang's sword. The Blood Mountain sword was above the dark airflow, and the endless dark airflow was immediately dispersed. A mocking smile appeared on Jian Wushuang's face. A majestic sword essence suddenly burst out. The 9th move of the space-time swordsmanship storm. Buzz buzz buzz. A large number of space-time rules gathered together with the sword essence, forming one space-time blade after another. There were more than 400 space-time blades that had completely fused with the sword intent. Space-time laws and sword arts were perfectly fused together. Boom! A violent wind suddenly swept up between heaven and earth, and a huge sword intent storm completely enveloped the void where the hunchbacked old man was. This storm contained more than 400 space-time blades, as well as an endless amount of shocking sword intent. It was extremely terrifying, killing everything in its path. No! The hunchbacked elder let out a hysterical roar. His eyes were full of fear. He had originally thought that Jian Wushuang was his prey, and wanted to steal Jian Wushuang's points. Since Jian Wushuang was unwilling to hand it over, he wanted to kill Jian Wushuang directly. However, he had never expected that Jian Wushuang, a divine master, would have such terrifying battle strength. As a result, the roles of hunter and prey changed in an instant. The endless sword essence finally dissipated completely. The world returned to peace. As for the hunchbacked old man, his body had already been ground into pieces. Only his dark spear and his interspatial ring remained. Jian Wushuang went forward and put away the hunchbacked old man's spear. Then he began to search the hunchbacked old man's interspatial ring. The hunchbacked old man was an immortal saint and had a lot of wealth. He had a lot of ready-made sacred elixirs, as well as a lot of identity tokens that represented points. Chapter 2942. Jian Wushuang's goal. Jian Wushuang first looked at the identity tokens. There were many identity tokens. Jian Wushuang checked the list one by one, and finally got the result. 11,700 points. Jian Wushuang raised his eyebrows. It had only been 2 days since the 10-day deadline for the mission, but the vicissitudes of life elder had already obtained 11,700 points. All of these points came from the divine masters of Black Dragon Mountain, but not the immortal saint. Obviously, the vicissitude elder only intended to deal with the divine masters of Black Dragon Mountain, but not the immortal saint of Black Dragon Mountain. Moreover, the reason why he could get so many points in just 2 days was not only because he had killed the experts of Black Dragon Mountain, but also because he had killed the other participants on the way. Just now, if Jian Wushuang was not strong enough, he would have had no choice but to flee in embarrassment when facing this weathered elder. Even whether he could escape or not was a different matter. There are no restrictions in this assessment mission. The participants can not only get points by killing experts of Black Dragon Mountain, but also kill people from the same camp. The speed of getting points will be faster. Jian Wushuang understood this point. He had killed 3 groups of experts from the Black Dragon Mountain in a row, and did not let any of them go. He only got more than 5,000 points. But now, he killed an elder from the same camp, and got 11,700 points in one go. It was easy to imagine how fast he got points. I'm only a divine master. The standard for passing the assessment is only 10,000 points. I've completed the assessment and now. Jian Wushuang's expression became strange. He had already met the criteria for passing the assessment, so there was no need for him to continue killing. However, after killing the hunchbacked elder, he saw great benefits. Yes, benefits. The immortal saint was not only powerful, but he was also worth a lot. For example, after killing the hunchbacked elder, Jian Wushuang had obtained countless resources, and there were no less than 600,000 saint elixirs. He needed saint elixirs. After all, his current realm was still that of an advanced great divine master. He had not reached peak divine master yet, so there was still some room for improvement. To improve his realm, he needed saint elixirs. Normally, in the outer territories, many immortal saints either occupied their own territories, or were under the command of a great force. They did not actively provoke me, so it would not be easy for me to deal with them. But now it's different here, Jian Wushuang muttered. Black Dragon Mountain was in the middle of a massacre. The 2 camps, or even the same camp, were engaged in a fierce battle. In such an environment, Jian Wushuang did not care about the number of people, and tried to plunder more resources. Forget about the divine masters in Black Dragon Mountain. If I kill them now, I'll be too much of a bully. My target is the immortal saints in Black Dragon Mountain. Jian Wushuang clenched his hands, his eyes shining. There are 11 immortal saints alive in Black Dragon Mountain, and 2 of them are top-notch false saints. Each of them has a lot of resources. I can get a lot of benefits from killing one of them. In 10 days, I'll see how many I can find and kill. Jian Wushuang smiled wickedly, and soon he set off again. The land where Black Dragon Mountain was located was not big. If an immortal saint traveled at full speed, he could cross the entire land in 2 or 3 days. Jian Wushuang was traveling alone in this land at an extremely fast speed. His soul power swept out unscrupulously. Along the way, he also sensed many auras. Unfortunately, what he sensed were only the divine masters of Black Dragon Mountain. Although there were many of them, Jian Wushuang did not plan to attack them. Instead, he passed by them. What Jian Wushuang was looking for were the 11 immortal saints of Black Dragon Mountain. The 11 immortal saints were absolutely confident in their strength. Because of the death of the ancestor of Black Dragon Mountain, they were also very angry. Therefore, among the 11 immortal saints, most of them were wandering around like Jian Wushuang and the others. The immortal saints and 27 divine masters of the Heaven-Cleaving Alliance were trying to hunt down the experts of Black Dragon Mountain. The immortal saints of Black Dragon Mountain were also hunting down the divine masters of the Heaven-Cleaving Alliance. Jian Wushuang searched all the way until he met an immortal saint of the Black Dragon Mountain on the 4th day of the mission. The boy of the Heaven-Cleaving Alliance was met by me, Jin Shan. You're dead. I'll kill you to avenge the deaths of the many cultivators of the Black Dragon Mountain. The burly man of the Black Dragon Mountain looked at Jian Wushuang with bloodshot eyes. He stared at Jian Wushuang with a giant axe in his hand. If you want to kill me, just do it. Jian Wushuang smiled slightly and waved at Jin Shan provocatively. Die! In his fury, Jin Shan charged forward like a prehistoric beast. His steps were extremely heavy, as if each step weighed hundreds of millions of pounds. After several steps, he appeared in front of Jian Wushuang. Then he swung the huge axe in his hand. In an instant, a mighty shadow of the axe appeared and covered the entire void. Jian Wushuang chuckled and also struck out with his sword. As soon as the two came into contact, two terrifying forces burst out at the same time. Jian Wushuang's body shook, and he took 2 steps back, while Jin Shan took several steps back. Your strength is not bad. You are much stronger than the hunchbacked old man that I killed before, but Jian Wushuang's eyes flashed with a cold light. With a strange move, he appeared beside Jin Shan, and the Blood Mountain sword carried a beam of demonic light. He silently attacked Jin Shan. So fast. Jin Shan was shocked and quickly blocked it. With a clang, Jian Wushuang appeared on the other side, and the same sword light attacked again. Too slow, your speed is too slow. Jian Wushuang shouted. Ah boy, go to hell. Jin Shan was like an angry beast, crazily swinging his huge axe, trying to suppress Jian Wushuang. However, Jian Wushuang did not confront him head-on. Your speed is too slow. You can't touch me at all. Be my target. Jian Wushuang smiled coldly. The endless sword light had completely enveloped Jin Shan. Chapter 2943. Top False Saint Clang. 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 Jian Wushuang attacked again and again. Each time, his swordsmanship was unbelievably fast, and the angles were extremely tricky. Although Jin Shan was powerful, he obviously could not keep up with Jian Wushuang's speed, so he could only take a beating passively. In just a moment, Jian Wushuang's Blood Mountain sword had swept over his divine body twice, but he had resisted it. Jin Shan's attack is not only powerful, but his body protection ability is also very strong. Jian Wushuang thought, Boy, are you tickling me? Your attack has no effect on me at all. Jin Shan growled. Tickling me? Let's try again. Jian Wushuang smiled coldly and thrust the long sword in his hand forward. The thrust was extremely swift and fierce, and a spiral passage immediately appeared in the void. The dazzling sword light burst out with astonishing power and instantly struck Jin Shan's divine body. There had always been a layer of faint golden energy on the surface of Jin Shan's divine body. This faint golden energy helped him block the damage from the outside world. However, as Jian Wushuang's sword pierced through, the faint golden energy directly shattered with a bang. Jian Wushuang suddenly took a step forward. This step immediately closed the distance between him and Jin Shan, and then he directly slashed out with the Blood Mountain sword in his hand. The sword was so fast that Jin Shan could not withstand it. The sword light immediately swept toward Jin Shan's neck. It's useless. I'm wearing protective armor at the level of a holy treasure. You can't hurt me with your swordsmanship, Jin Shan shouted in a low voice. But he had just finished his words. The protective armor on his neck, where Jian Wushuang's sword light swept, was suddenly cut open, and the Blood Mountain sword entered Jin Shan's divine body through the opening. Then it flew out from the other end. A huge head flew out. How is this possible? Jin Shan was shocked, but his vitality was completely cut off. He did not know that Jian Wushuang's Blood Mountain sword was a second-grade holy treasure and extremely sharp. Although Jin Shan's protective armor was powerful, it was only in the third grade. In front of the Blood Mountain sword, it could not withstand the terrifying tearing force at all. A huge hole was immediately torn in the protective armor. In the void, Jian Wushuang looked coldly at Jin Shan's corpse and shook his head secretly. Weak, too weak. I didn't use any means. I didn't use many secret skills. I killed him easily with my divine power and comprehension of sword principle. Jian Wushuang sighed. He was indeed a divine master now, and he was only an advanced divine master. He had not reached the peak divine master level yet. However, his battle strength had long surpassed that of many immortal saints. If he used a secret skill, he could kill a false saint like Jin Shan with one sword strike. Even if he did not use a secret skill, he could still kill him. It was indeed difficult for a mere false saint to exert any pressure on him. After disposing of Jin Shan's body, Jian Wushuang began to inspect Jin Shan's interspatial ring. Jin Shan was much stronger than the hunchbacked elder, who had been killed by Jian Wushuang. Moreover, he was a member of the highest level of Black Dragon Mountain, so he naturally had more resources and treasures in his hands. Jian Wushuang also obtained a lot of saint elixirs in Jin Shan's interspatial ring, and a lot of saint elixirs. Go ahead and hopefully you'll meet someone stronger next, or it'll be too boring. Jian Wushuang murmured, and continued to move forward. In the blink of an eye, 7 days had passed since the 10-day deadline. In the middle of a vast canyon, boom! One of the sides of the gorge burst open, and a figure sank completely into it. The human figure struggled, but he did not have the time to walk out of the mountain wall. Bang! A golden fist directly smashed over, instantly shattering the human figure's head. Who? With a flash, the person who swung the fist was a tall and sturdy golden-haired middle-aged man. This golden-haired middle-aged man's face was covered with a golden beard, but he looked like a living golden lion. The second one, the golden-haired middle-aged man looked at the silent mountain wall and the cold corpse in front of him, but his eyes were still extremely cold. He came from the Black Dragon Mountain. He was one of the 2 strongest false saints in the Black Dragon Mountain, excluding the old ancestor who was killed. During these 7 days, all he did was to travel around and search for the experts from the Heaven-Cleaving Alliance who participated in the assessment. During these 7 days, he met a total of 4 experts who were participating in the assessment. In the end, 2 of them managed to escape, while the remaining 2 were killed on the spot. Those who dared to participate in the Heaven-Cleaving Alliance assessment do indeed have some strength. Furthermore, all of them are not weak in life-saving abilities. During these 7 days, I met a total of 4 people, but in the end, I only managed to kill 2 people. The golden-haired middle-aged man was clearly not satisfied. Black Dragon Mountain's patriarch was killed on the spot by Yaoyu. Black Dragon Mountain would no longer exist in the future, which filled the golden-haired middle-aged man's heart with resentment and anger. He naturally wanted to vent this resentment and anger by killing the Heaven-Cleaving Alliance's experts who participated in the assessment. But in the end, he only killed 2 people in 7 days. To him, that was too little. In the remaining 3 days, I have to think of a way to kill more. The golden-haired middle-aged man clenched his hands tightly and then flew to the side. As the golden-haired middle-aged man flew, he released his soul power, frantically searching for the traces of the surrounding experts. 2 hours later, the golden-haired middle-aged man's expression suddenly changed. He was already far away from the Divine Lord's aura that had appeared in the area covered by his soul. That Divine Lord's aura was extremely unfamiliar to him. Clearly, it was not from his Black Dragon Mountain. Without hesitation, the golden-haired middle-aged man rushed toward the Holy Master at his fastest speed. He didn't escape. Did he not notice me? The distance between him and the Holy Master was getting closer and closer. In just a moment, he had appeared in front of the Holy Master. Even though the Holy Master had seen him coming, he had no intention of escaping. Jian Wushuang stood quietly in the void with his arms crossed. He looked at the golden-haired middle-aged man with a faint smile on his face. This man has such a strong aura. He is much stronger than the hunchbacked elder and Jin Shan whom I killed before. When all the experts of the Black Dragon Mountain gathered together, his aura was also very strong, only slightly weaker than the ancestor of the Black Dragon Mountain. It seems that he is one of the 2 top false saints of Black Dragon Mountain, Jian Wushuang thought to himself. He knew from that list that the Black Dragon Mountain now had 2 top false saints, each with a total of 50,000 points. Chapter 2944. Special Events. Boy from the Heaven-Slaying Alliance, you didn't run away when you saw me coming? Aren't you worried that I'll kill you? The golden-haired middle-aged man stared at Jian Wushuang with cold eyes. Not long ago, an immortal saint from the Black Dragon Mountain met me. He wanted to kill me, but he died in my hands. His name is Jin Shan. You should know him, Jian Wushuang said with a faint smile. Jin Shan? You killed junior brother Jin Shan? The blonde middle-aged man's expression changed. Jian Wushuang did not say anything. He just waved his hand and took out a token. This token was Jin Shan's identity token. The blonde middle-aged man only glanced at it and immediately recognized it. It really is junior brother Jin Shan's identity token. You killed junior brother Jin Shan, you deserve to die. The blonde middle-aged man instantly became furious. A terrifying aura burst out from the golden-haired middle-aged man's body. The golden-haired middle-aged man was filled with towering hostility. His 2 palms were covered with golden fists. A golden light flashed and an ear-piercing air explosion was heard. The golden-haired middle-aged man had already appeared in front of Jian Wushuang, and the fists in his hands were also violently thrown at Jian Wushuang. Naturally, Jian Wushuang was not afraid at all. He immediately fought head-on with the golden-haired middle-aged man. The fighting continued in the Black Dragon Mountain. The enchantment that covered the entire Black Dragon Mountain still existed. As long as the enchantment existed, no one could escape from Black Dragon Mountain. There was a void outside the enchantment, and a magnificent tower was floating there quietly. On the top floor of the tower, 2 figures sat facing each other, sipping the fine wine in front of them. Yao Yu, what are you planning to do? The elegant purple-haired youth asked. Sitting opposite the purple-haired youth was Yao Yu, the heaven-ranked member, who had easily killed the Black Dragon Mountain's patriarch. However, Yao Yu was not wearing a mask at the moment, revealing an extremely beautiful face that could make one's mind waver. There's no rush. It's not easy for me to come out. I'll wait for some time, Yao Yu said. Is this all right? If I remember correctly, if that lord behind you knows that you secretly ran out, he will likely be a little unhappy. The purple-haired young man said playfully. Who cares? That old fellow's character is extremely withdrawn. I'm different from him. If it wasn't for him forcing me back then, I wouldn't have been willing to be his disciple. Yao Yu said. Haha, that lord's character is a little withdrawn. However, he treats your disciple quite well. The purple-haired young man laughed. Yao Yu and the purple-haired youth clearly knew each other, and they had a certain degree of friendship. The 2 chatted casually. But at this moment, dang dang dang, a gray-robed figure walked up the stairs anxiously, and soon arrived in front of the 2. Lord, a special event has occurred in the Black Dragon Mountain. The gray-robed figure bowed respectfully. Special event? The purple-haired youth put down the wine cup in his hand and frowned slightly. We have already thoroughly investigated the background of Black Dragon Mountain. After that ancestor was killed by me, this Black Dragon Mountain should no longer be able to cause any waves. Now that a special event has occurred, could it be those people who participated in the assessment? Yao Yu said in surprise. Why don't we go and take a look? The purple-haired young man smiled. The 2 of them immediately stood up and walked downstairs. On the lower floor, in a dark space, several gray-robed men were gathered there. At the front of this space, there were dozens of mirror images. Before the assessment began, the goateed old man had said that everything in the Black Dragon Mountain was under the surveillance of the Heaven-Cleaving Alliance. This was indeed true. The Heaven-Cleaving Alliance could see every corner of Black Dragon Mountain clearly through the barrier. Wherever there was an intense battle in Black Dragon Mountain, it could be seen from the mirror image in the dark space. When the purple-haired young man and Yao Yu came to this dark space, they were immediately attracted by the mirror image in front of them. In the mirror image, there were two people fighting fiercely. They knew that one of the two people fighting fiercely was Jin Shi, one of the two strongest top false saint experts in Black Dragon Mountain. But the other person, a god, a divine master? The purple-haired young man was extremely shocked. A divine master can fight head-on with a top false saint without being at a disadvantage? Yao Yu was also extremely shocked. What they saw was the battle between Jian Wushuang and the golden-haired middle-aged man. One was a superior false saint, and the other was only a divine master. The result of this battle should have been without any suspense. But now, how long have they been fighting? The purple-haired young man asked. Sir, it has been a while. A gray-robed man next to him said respectfully. We have found out that the divine master fighting with Jin Shi is called Sword Heaven Marquis from the 385th layer. We have noticed him a few days ago. A few days ago? The purple-haired young man looked over in surprise. Sir, a few days ago, Heavenly Sword Marquis had already fought with the immortal saint in Black Dragon Mountain. He has already killed 2 immortal saints. One of the 2 immortal saints is also participating in this assessment. His strength is average, but the other is an immortal saint from Black Dragon Mountain. His name is Golden Mountain. When Heavenly Sword Marquis killed the 2 of them, he displayed extremely strong battle strength. But because the immortal saints he killed were not very strong, we paid special attention to it, but did not report it to you. But just now, Sword Heavenly Marquis fought with Golden Lion of Black Dragon Mountain. We immediately came to report it. The gray-robed man said. The purple-haired young man nodded slightly. Although he was in charge of the assessment, as long as there were no major changes in the assessment process, he would not give it to the gray-robed men. These gray-robed men also knew their own judgment. Only when there was something really important. That was why he told him. Although Jian Wushuang had shown great strength when he killed the 2 immortal saints, they were not so shocked that they did not report it to the purple-haired young man. But now it was different. After all, the Golden Lion is a genuine top false saint. A deity was able to fight a peak false saint head-on without losing. Such strength was rare even in the vast absolute beginning divine realm. Yao Yu, what do you think? The purple-haired young man looked at Yao Yu. Sword Heavenly Marquis is indeed very impressive. From the techniques he has displayed, his basic divine power is extremely strong, not inferior to an ordinary false saint. The reason why he could fight against Golden Lion like this is because his comprehension of the sword principle is extremely high. Yao Yu exclaimed. His comprehension of sword Tao is too high. If I'm not wrong, not only has he nurtured the boundless sword tree, but it has also grown to a height of at least 20,000 feet, or even 30,000 feet. Otherwise, his sword arts would not be so powerful. Chapter 2945. Beheading. From the battle between Jian Wushuang and Jin Shi, he could see that Jian Wushuang's basic divine power, comprehension of rules, and even the creation of absolute arts were inferior to Jin Shi's. The reason why he could confront Jin Shi head-on was that the point is that his understanding of sword Tao was too high. With a high understanding of swordsmanship, the power of his swordsmanship would naturally skyrocket. To be able to match Jin Shi, Jian Wushuang's boundless sword tree should be about 30,000 feet tall. And her judgment was spot on. Jian Wushuang's boundless sword tree was 33,000 feet tall. But it was not because his understanding of the sword principle was too high. He had just bred the boundless sword tree not long ago. But because his physique was different, his starting point was too high. Many people had only grown the boundless sword tree to the limit of 33,000 feet. But once he gave birth to the boundless sword tree, it was 33,000 feet tall. Although his comprehension of the sword principle was not very high, when the 33,000 feet tall boundless sword tree was activated, the power of his swordsmanship increased. A mere divine master's comprehension of the sword principle is actually so high. It's simply unbelievable. In addition, he is also extremely outstanding in other aspects. All in all, He definitely has the qualifications to enter the heaven and earth palace of our heaven-cleaving alliance. If his comprehension of the rules were to improve slightly, it would not be a problem for him to enter the primitive palace, said Yao Yu. Haha, I think so too. With his current strength, he can barely enter the primitive palace. I didn't expect that you and I could meet such a genius, just because we went on a mission out of boredom. The primitive palace, even you and I are only members of the heaven and earth palace. There is still some distance to go before we can enter the primitive palace. As for the heavenly sword marquis, the purple-haired young man did not finish his words. Don't worry. Let's wait and see. I have a feeling that heavenly sword marquis hasn't gone all out, Yao Yu said. He hasn't gone all out. The purple-haired young man's expression changed, and he immediately looked at the mirror image in front of him. In the mirror image, it was in Black Dragon Mountain. Bang! With a loud bang, Jian Wushuang and Jin Shi were both pushed back. Jin Shi's aura was cold, and his eyes were burning with anger. He stared at Jian Wushuang, but he was also shocked. A divine master is so strong. Jin Shi was indeed shocked. He now believed that Jin Shan had indeed died at the hands of this divine master. Because this divine master's battle strength was definitely comparable to an ordinary peak false saint. Your strength is not bad. You are much stronger than Jin Shan. You are a good opponent to train your swordsmanship. Jian Wushuang held his sword with one hand and looked at Jin Shi with a faint smile. Train your swordsmanship? Jin Shi's expression changed. Do you think him your opponent to train your swordsmanship? Yes. Jian Wushuang smiled. Unfortunately, your strength is still weak, and you can't really put pressure on me. The effect of the training is minimal. In that case, I don't need to waste time with you. I'll kill you directly. Kill me directly? How arrogant. Jin Shi snorted with disdain in his heart. Jian Wushuang did not waste any more words. His body shook, and immediately majestic golden divine power began to gather crazily behind him. In the blink of an eye, a 30,000-meter tall golden emperor phantom appeared behind him. The 7-star secret skill and the 9 luminary star armor were immediately used. In just a moment, Jian Wushuang had used all 3 of his secret skills, and his battle strength had soared to a whole new level. In the outside world, when he fought with Shuedong King, who had also reached the peak of the pseudo-saint realm, and was infinitely close to the true saint realm, he had only used the 7-star secret skill to gain the upper hand. But now, he had used all 3 secret skills at the same time. As expected, Heavenly Sword Marquis still has some tricks up his sleeve. His aura has improved a lot. I feel that he is much stronger than before. In the tower outside the enchantment, the purple-haired young man and Yao Yu's pupils shrank when they saw this scene. As for Jin Shi, although he felt that Jian Wushuang's aura had improved greatly, he did not pay much attention to it. Boy, no matter what, you are only a divine master. I don't believe that you can really overturn the heavens. Jin Shi shouted. Golden light burst out from his body, and in an instant, he turned into a huge golden beast and crazily attacked Jian Wushuang. Before he got close to Jian Wushuang, the shocking evil aura swept over him. Looking at the crazy Jin Shi, Jian Wushuang just smiled faintly and waved his sleeve. Streams of black light burst out instantly. These black streams of light were 18 underworld blood divine swords with astonishing auras. As soon as the 18 underworld blood divine swords appeared, they immediately merged perfectly with Jian Wushuang's control at the fastest speed. Buzz! A faint humming sound, like the sound of a sword, slowly sounded in the world. Although the sound was not loud, it was extremely strange. In the void, a brand new black divine sword that was only 2 meters long but extremely wide appeared out of thin air. The moment this 2-meter-long black divine sword appeared, buzz 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 buzz, the surrounding world suddenly turned gray. This gray-white seemed to have fallen into a boundless sea of snow, and everywhere was a vast expanse of white. In this vast expanse of white, the only black color that stood in opposition was the black divine sword in the center of the void. The black magic sword had become the only focus in the world. The 4th level of the Samsara sword formation, the world of ice and snow, had taken shape. Go! Jian Wushuang pointed. The black magic sword instantly turned into black lightning and shot out. In an instant, it appeared in front of Jin Shi. Jin Shi's eyes were red, and there was endless golden divine power gathering in his right palm. Suddenly, he swung his right arm, and a golden fist smashed out like a golden meteorite falling from the sky. The black divine sword stabbed crazily. Bang! With a loud sound, a terrifying power spread out and shattered everything in the surroundings. In the middle of the collision, Jin Shi's body shook, and his aura instantly weakened, with faint blood flowing out of his mouth. It was obvious that he had been completely crushed in this head-on collision. Die! Killing intent flashed in Jian Wushuang's eyes. The black divine sword did not stop for a moment, but it shot out again and directly hit Jin Shi's divine body. Jin Shi's body was covered with protective armor. He seemed uninjured, but the inside of his divine body had been shattered. A peak false saint had died on the spot. Chapter 2946, Primal Chaos Palace Dead? A peak false saint was killed just like that? In the tower, the purple-haired youth and demonic Jade looked at the scene in the mirror image in shock. A peak false saint was indeed nothing to them. They could easily kill him. But now the one who killed Jin Shi was only a divine master. A divine master could kill a peak false saint. And from the looks of it, Jian Wushuang seemed to have it easy. True saint. Sword Heavenly Marquis definitely has the battle strength of a true saint, Yao Yi shouted. Yes, once he showed his strength, he activated the sword formation and seriously injured Jin Shi with one attack. The second time he killed Jin Shi. Only a true saint has such strength. And even among first-rank true saints, Sword Heavenly Marquis is not weak, the purple-haired youth said. The primitive palace. He can definitely enter the primitive palace. Without a doubt, he is definitely one of the top existences in the primitive palace. If he improves a little in terms of the rules, he might even be able to enter the Primal Chaos Palace. Yao Yu said solemnly. Primal Chaos Palace. The purple-haired young man's heart could not help but be shocked. Both of them had extraordinary backgrounds and knew more about Heaven-Cleaving Alliance. The Heaven-Cleaving Alliance had 3 palaces, which were used by the Heaven-Cleaving Alliance to cultivate top geniuses. These 3 palaces were the Heaven and Earth Palace, the Primitive Palace, and the Primal Chaos Palace. Among them, the Heaven-Earth Palace had the lowest level, and the level of geniuses was also the lowest. However, even the lowest Heaven and Earth Palace could not be entered by ordinary people. It had to be the top genius of the divine beginning world. Take a divine master for example. If this divine master wanted to enter the Heaven and Earth Palace, he had to at least kill an ordinary immortal saint. This was only the lowest standard. Some of the top geniuses in the Heaven and Earth Palace could kill peak false saints at the divine master level. As for the primitive palace, it was higher than the Heaven and Earth Palace, so the level of geniuses was naturally higher. When they saw that Jian Wushuang was able to fight Jin Shi head-on, they were certain that Jian Wushuang could definitely enter the Heaven and Earth Palace. However, they said that Jian Wushuang's comprehension of the rules was higher, so he could enter the primitive palace. It showed how high the threshold of the primitive palace was. If the geniuses of the primitive palace were to take the divine master as an example, he could definitely cross ranks to challenge a peak false saint, or even defeat a peak false saint. As for killing a peak false saint, only the top geniuses of the primitive palace could do it. However, Jian Wushuang had not only killed Jin Shi, but he had also killed him easily. He had driven the reincarnation sword formation and killed Jin Shi with 2 strikes. It was a complete slaughter. With such strength, the purple-haired young man and Yao Yu believed that Jian Wushuang was qualified to enter the higher level of the Primal Chaos Palace. The Primal Chaos Palace was a place where monsters were nurtured. Anyone who could enter the Primal Chaos Palace would be the most terrifying monsters in the divine beginning world. Any one of them was enough to make all the forces in the absolute divine beginning world fight for it. For example, among the top forces like the 3 great holy regions, the 4 great divine races, and the 8 directions heavenly sect in the vast third sky, there were only a handful of such monsters. And within the Heaven-Cleaving Alliance, there was a rumor regarding the Primal Chaos Palace. It said that as long as a genius who came out of the primal chaos palace did not die midway, the weakest one would be the master of laws. Because of this, the purple-haired young man and Yao Yu were full of yearning for the primal chaos palace. Unfortunately, although they were geniuses, they could only try to break into the primal chaos palace. The primal chaos palace was too far away for them. Long Yun, we should immediately report the matter of Heavenly Marquis, sword to the existence behind us, or the highest level of the Heaven-Cleaving Alliance. We should try our best to absorb such a top genius, Yao Yu said. Don't be anxious. Long Yun waved his hand. Let's not report it yet. After this assessment is over, you and I will go and talk to the Heaven-Cleaving Alliance. You and I will go. You mean? Yao Yu's expression changed. Hee. If we recruit a top genius like the Heaven-Cleaving Alliance, no matter which palace he goes to, as long as he shows his strength, you and I will receive a huge reward. However, if we report this matter to the person behind us, and ask the higher-ups of the Heaven-Cleaving Alliance to recruit him and negotiate with him, we will still receive benefits, but not as much, Long Yun said. Understood. Yao Yu nodded slightly. He also understood Long Yun's meaning. The two of them took the initiative to approach and agreed on the terms. It would be best if they personally brought Heavenly Sword Marquis to the 3 palaces of the Heaven-Cleaving Alliance. That way, as long as Heavenly Sword Marquis revealed his strength, they would receive a huge reward. However, if it was just to report the news, they would definitely not receive so many things. In comparison, they would definitely choose the former. Let's wait for a while. The assessment will be over in 3 days. Let's wait here for 3 days. Long Yun smiled, and was obviously very happy. In the Black Dragon Mountain, Jian Wushuang did not know what happened in the outside world, nor did he know that Long Yun and Yao Yu were shocked by what happened to him. He just did what he wanted to do. In the battle with Jin Shi, he did have the intention of honing his swordsmanship. After all, his swordsmanship had a lot of room to grow. After honing his swordsmanship, he killed Jin Shi and gained a lot of wealth from Jin Shi. This was a big harvest. Then, he continued to wander around the Black Dragon Mountain, searching for the immortal saints. However, there were many divine masters among the remaining experts in Black Dragon Mountain, but Jian Wushuang was not interested in divine masters at all. However, there were not many immortal saints. He had killed 2 of the 11 immortal saints, and only 9 of them were wandering around the Black Dragon Mountain. Some of them were hiding, which made it difficult for Jian Wushuang to find them. Time passed, and the last 3 days passed in a flash. Jian Wushuang did not make any more moves during the last 3 days. Since then, the 10-day deadline had come to an end. Jian Wushuang and the others stopped their search and began to return to the previous gathering point. As for the experts who were lucky enough to survive in Black Dragon Mountain, they were very happy. They were glad that they had survived the 10-day hunt. As long as they survived these 10 days, they would be able to live according to what the goateed elder had said. Of course they were happy. On the Black Dragon Mountain, in front of the huge black mountain that had been split in half, the experts who had come to participate in the assessment gathered once again. Chapter 2947. Lord Long Yin, there are so few people. Jian Wushuang looked around. There were originally 27 divine masters participating in this assessment, and almost all of them were invincible divine masters. However, after 10 days only 12 of them, including Jian Wushuang, were still alive, less than half of them. Only 3 of the 5 immortal saints survived, and 2 of them died in the same test. Of course, one of the 2 immortal saints was killed by Jian Wushuang. Although the Heaven-Cleaving Alliance test is not very stressful for me, it is very dangerous for ordinary invincible divine masters, Jian Wushuang thought. He could imagine it. Although the Black Dragon Mountain Patriarch had been killed, there were still 11 immortal saints scattered on the land. The divine masters who participated in the assessment had to find a way to kill the divine masters of Black Dragon Mountain and get enough points. But they had to be careful not to be targeted by the 11 immortal saints of Black Dragon Mountain. It was indeed very difficult. It was remarkable that they could survive these 10 days and get enough points to complete any divine master. Take out all the identity tokens you've got, the goateed elder said. The experts present immediately took out the 10 days gains. Jian Wushuang also took out some identity tokens, but he knew what to do. He only took out a small part, which was enough for him to pass the test. As for the remaining identity tokens, he put them in his interspatial ring. As for the final result, out of the 3 immortal saints, only one of them got 50,000 points and passed the test. The remaining 2 had fewer points. As for the 12 surviving divine masters, including Jian Wushuang, 10 of them got enough points. Only 2 of them were unlucky and got fewer points. It could be seen that compared to the immortal saint, the probability of a divine master passing the assessment was higher. Those who pass the assessment will be ordinary members of the Heaven-Cleaving Alliance from today onwards. You can enjoy the treatment of ordinary members of the Heaven-Cleaving Alliance. Here are your identity tokens and costumes. Come up and take them one by one, the goateed elder said. The immortal saint and the 10 divine masters who had passed the assessment stepped forward one by one and took an identity token and a set of clothes from the goateed elder. Well, the assessment is over. Except for you. The rest of you can leave through the spatial passage. The goateed elder pointed at a person. The person being pointed at was Jian Wushuang. The people around quickly left through the space passage, leaving Jian Wushuang alone. Jian Wushuang had a strange look on his face. He did not know why the goateed elder wanted to leave him alone. Heavenly Sword Marquis, there is a lord in the Heaven-Slaying Alliance who wants to see you. The goateed elder looked at Jian Wushuang with a gentle smile. A lord wants to see me? Jian Wushuang raised his eyebrows. Come with me, the goateed elder said and then led the way. Although Jian Wushuang felt strange, he still followed the goateed elder. Because the assessment had ended, the great barrier that had always existed in Black Dragon Mountain had disappeared. The goateed elder took Jian Wushuang away from the land of Black Dragon Mountain and came to a tall tower in the surrounding void. The goateed elder led Jian Wushuang into the tower and soon arrived at the top floor. There were 2 people waiting for him on the top floor. When they saw Jian Wushuang come in, they immediately came up to him. Heavenly Sword Marquis, let me introduce you. This is Lord Xueyu, whom you have met before. The goateed elder pointed at the beautiful young woman. Lord Xueyu. Jian Wushuang bowed slightly to show his respect. He had indeed seen Xueyu before, and he had also seen her kill the patriarch of Black Dragon Mountain with a thunderbolt. However, at that time, Xueyu was wearing a mask, but now she was not. Heavenly Sword Marquis, you are too polite. I didn't expect you to be so powerful when we met before. Xueyu smiled slightly. This is Lord Long Yin. The goateed elder pointed at the purple-haired youth. Both Lord Long Yin and Lord Xueyu are top geniuses in the Heaven-Slaying Alliance. They are real geniuses. Lord Long Yin. Jian Wushuang also bowed to Long Yin. Haha, I don't dare to call myself a genius in front of you. You don't have to call me Lord. Just call me by my name. Long Yin was very enthusiastic. At the same time, he glanced at the goateed elder. You can go down first. Let us talk alone. Yes. The goateed elder nodded, and immediately turned to leave. Only Jian Wushuang, Long Yin, and Yao Yu were left in the space on the top floor of the attic. Brother Tianho, take a seat. Long Yin waved his hand. Jian Wushuang did not stand on ceremony, and directly sat down beside a long table. To tell you the truth, I specially invited you here for one reason. Long Yin did not beat around the bush. Instead, he directly stated his intention. I want to invite you to join the Heaven-Cleaving Alliance and become a member of the 3 palaces. Join the Heaven-Cleaving Alliance? Jian Wushuang was puzzled. I have passed the assessment of the Heaven-Cleaving Alliance. Am I not an ordinary member now? That's different. Long Yin shook his head. The Heaven-Cleaving Alliance is an extremely loose alliance with almost no restrictions. Many members of the alliance join the Heaven-Cleaving Alliance for their own interests. And so is your status as an ordinary member now, Brother Heavenly Sword Marquis. And by joining, I mean truly joining the core of the Heaven-Cleaving Alliance, and becoming a core member of the Heaven-Cleaving Alliance. Core. Jian Wushuang was stunned. Isn't it said that the original level above the Emperor level is the core of the Heaven-Cleaving Alliance? Haha, brother Heavenly Sword Marquis, the so-called original level members are the core of the Heaven-Cleaving Alliance. This is just a rumor from the outside world. In fact, the core of the Heaven-Cleaving Alliance does not distinguish between realms. It depends on their talent and strength. As long as the Heaven-Cleaving Alliance believes that an immortal saint, or even a divine master has great potential, he can become the core of the Heaven-Cleaving Alliance. That's why there are 3 palaces in the Heaven-Cleaving Alliance, Long Yin said. 3 palaces? Which 3 palaces? Jian Wushuang asked. The Heaven-Earth Palace, the Primitive Palace, and the Primal Chaos Palace. Long Yin began to explain to Jian Wushuang. He told Jian Wushuang about the basic situation of the 3 palaces, including their significance and the level of geniuses. You're tuning in to the Li Mei's Wuxia Whispers YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support. And don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.